You don't meet a woman. You meet four. Not all at once. Life isn't that generous, but in waves, in fragments, in seasons. One moment you're held by softness that feels like home. The next you're undone by a fire that burns everything you pretend to be. Then comes the clarity of truth that slices you open, followed by the fierce love that refuses to let you stay small. And if you're honest, you've spent most of your life trying to understand them, love them, tame them, or run from them. Not knowing that these women, these queens, are not strangers. They are forces, archetypes, mirrors, pieces of the feminine that shape every man who's brave enough to receive them. Every lover you ever had carried one of these energies. Every relationship you lost collapsed under one of these wounds. Every version of yourself you couldn't become was blocked by one of these tests. This book is not about understanding women. That would be too shallow. This book is about understanding yourself in the presence of them. Because the truth no one ever told you is this: a man is revealed by the women he encounters. He is expanded by some, humbled by others, burned by a few, and reborn by all. The Empress shows you the parts of you that crave peace. The Sorceress shows you the parts that crave fire. The Sage shows you the parts that crave truth. The Warrior shows you the parts that crave challenge. Together, they do not form women. They form reality. Every queen you meet is a chapter in your evolution. And every chapter you survive makes you more capable of love, of purpose, of presence. So read slowly. Breathe deeply. And let these four women reintroduce you to the man you've always been trying to find. Introduction. The night I realized every woman has four queens inside her. One quiet night, the world wrapped in a blanket of silence, I found myself staring at the ceiling, lost in the labyrinth of my thoughts. Shadows danced across the walls, whispering secrets I had never dared to acknowledge. In that stillness, a profound realization emerged. Inside every woman I had ever loved, there lived not just one self, but four distinct personas, a court of queens, ruling the internal kingdom of her being. This chaotic blend of strength, vulnerability, intuition, and logic reshaped my understanding of femininity. In this intimate palace, each queen reigns over her domain with grace, bringing a unique energy that influences emotion and behavior. The Queen of Spades, sharp and analytical, lends clarity to the muddled chaos of life. She cuts through the fog with a blade of logic, revealing truths that others often overlook. Yet, in her quest for understanding, she risks becoming detached, trapping herself in a fortress of her own making. The Queen of Hearts, in stark contrast, embodies warmth and deep emotion. She loves passionately, her heart a sun that illuminates the shadowy corners of fear and longing. But this very love can transform into anxiety, especially when the fear of abandonment creeps in like an unwanted guest. Then there is the Queen of Diamonds, exuding power and standards with every step. She knows her worth, wearing it like a crown, but this self-awareness can morph into a rigid control that alienates those around her. Her beauty lies in her confidence, yet it is a double-edged sword that can slice into the skin of vulnerability. Finally, we meet the elusive Queen of Clubs, the embodiment of mystery and intuition. She taps into the unseen forces, feeling the undercurrents of life that others may miss. Her intuition guides her, but if she strays too far into the fog of escapism, she risks losing herself altogether. These voices, these archetypes dwell within all women, existing in a delicate balance and are often at odds with one another. It is a dance of power and fragility, strength and vulnerability. I found myself reflecting on my own experiences and relationships, seeing how these queens dictated my interactions and emotional responses. Was I engaging with the logical, strategic mind of the Queen of Spades, analyzing every nuance? Or was I honoring the tender heart of the Queen of Hearts, vulnerable yet open, willing to absorb the full impact of love. Maybe I was comfortable asserting my worth as the Queen of Diamonds, or perhaps lost in the timeless mysteries held by the Queen of Clubs. Reflecting on this inner court spills open a reservoir of questions. How do we honor each queen within us? Do we recognize their influence in our lives? In relationships, recognizing which queen governs can dramatically shift our perceptions. Instead of viewing tension or conflict as a sign of failure, we can ask ourselves, which queen's voice is rising to the surface? If we are analytical, where's the warmth that needs to break through? If we feel hurt, how can we reclaim our power without resorting to control and rigidity? Each of these queens, regardless of her different nature, holds wisdom. Every woman has this chord alive in her. Every man, too, hints at these energies. We are all complex tapestries woven from multiple threads, and when we appreciate our intricacies, we can approach our relationships more openly and empathetically. Understanding the four queens allows us to become observers of our own behaviors, lifting us out of reactive patterns and into conscious choice. Imagine approaching yourself and your loved ones with this newfound compassion and insight, recognizing not just the struggle for balance, but also the profound beauty in the complexity that defines us. Acquiring an awareness of these queens turns the mirror of understanding back toward ourselves. It challenges us to recognize that we are not just one emotional state, not merely a singular identity navigating through life's choices. Instead, we are multiple selves, existing alongside each other in a dance as intricate as the night sky, filled with stars. The next time you feel lost in your emotions, take a moment to reflect. Who is at the forefront? Is it the dealer of reason, the lover, the powerful contender, or the mystical guide? Reaching out to each queen not only enriches your experience of love and connection, but also crafts a path toward internal harmony. We are a chord of energies. One night, when silence was thick and the dark seemed to press close, I realized something quietly explosive. Inside me, and inside every woman I've ever known, there isn't a single self standing alone. Instead, there is a court, a private kingdom populated by four queens. Each carries her own voice, her own presence, her own power and shadow. They are not just parts of a mind or temperament. They feel alive, like distinct forces moving within, sometimes in harmony, often in conflict, but always governing the soul's secret workings. Imagine your inner world as a palace. It is not empty, nor simple. Within its walls, four queens hold throne. One rules with an icy blade of clarity, another pulses with the raw heat of love, a third dazzles with unshakable worth, and the fourth drifts in mist, carrying secrets so deep they defy naming. This isn't a metaphor stretched thin, but a truth you've known, but never quite heard spoken aloud. This is your private chord of energies, always alive, shaping how you love, hurt, dream, and move through your days. Are you just one you, or are you all these voices at once? When you feel torn or at war with yourself, can you hear these queens whisper, call, or clash? Do you try to silence some of them, hoping only one will rule quietly? This chord is messy, fractured, and fierce. To live fully, you must learn to recognize each queen, welcome her, and understand her language, not as separate little parts, but as an entire ruling council that defines who you are. Every woman, and even every man, carries these four forces inside. They shape every glance, every heartbeat, every choice in love and loneliness. They influence why you're instantly drawn to some people, and why you sabotage the very things that might save you. These queens shape emotional patterns that feel like destiny, but are really an inward drama played out behind closed doors. One queen judges what is worthy and what must be rejected. Another queen feels so deeply she is both a source of profound beauty and unbearable pain. A third stands like a diamond fortress, unshakable, guarding value with fierce standards. The last queen moves through shadows and silence, holding truths that don't belong to words, showing that not everything of importance is obvious or rational. Within your relationships, these energies swirl and clash. Sometimes love flows because the queens are aligned, singing together in harmony. Other times, love breaks because the queens are at odds, pulling you toward conflicting desires, fears, or defenses. Recognizing this is not about blame or shame. It is about understanding how your inner council works and how to finally sit at the table with all of them. These queens are not just forces of light. They carry wounds etched deep from history, from early longing and loss, from times you were unseen or misunderstood. Their strength and brilliance are always wrapped in vulnerability and defense. One queen's sharp logic can become cold detachment. Another's warmth can freeze into anxiety. The queen who guards your worth can become rigid control, while the one who whispers secrets might slip into confusion or escape. Yet within that complexity is unspoken beauty, an internal harmony waiting beneath the noise. Your court is a kingdom of instincts that protect you, wounds that teach you, and brilliance that guides you. When you learn to listen to their voices honestly, to hold their contradictions with kindness, you begin to know yourself not as fractured or weak, but as a whole that holds within it an infinite dance of power and grace. Ask yourself, which queen speaks loudest today? Which voice have you ignored? Which one needs to be heard for you to feel whole? These questions are not meant to unsettle, but to awaken. You are not a single story. You are a chord of energies, each queen alive, each queen essential. When you accept that you are a chord, you stop trying to force yourself into neat categories or simple answers. You stop expecting one part of you to solve every problem or carry every feeling. Instead, you learn to watch how your thoughts sharpen like a blade, how your heart reaches out with trembling hope, how your sense of value stands like a diamond wall, and how mystery weaves through everything, blurring the lines. This awareness changes everything. It makes emotional pain less about personal failure and more about parts of you asking for attention, kindness, or release. It turns conflict inside yourself into a conversation. It teaches you that attraction, sabotage, intimacy, and destiny don't happen to you in some random way. They are performances of your familiar queens, interacting endlessly. When nights get dark and lonely, and your mind races with questions you can't quiet, try this. Imagine your inner palace with its 4 thrones. See the queens sitting there, each waiting for you to acknowledge them. Speak to them as you would trusted friends. Sometimes one will need a fierce rebuke. Sometimes another will need a soft embrace. This is not fantasy. It is the beginning of knowing yourself fully and finally walking through the world with honest power that feels true to every part of you. The feminine psyche as a kingdom of forces. The night is thick with silence, a deep velvet curtain pulled tight across the world. In the quiet, there's a woman sitting alone, her eyes sweeping over the room with sharp, deliberate focus. Every detail, no matter how small, catches her attention. The flicker of a candle's flame, the faint crack of a shifting chair, the subtle curl of her fingertips resting on her knee. Her gaze is clear, almost cold, as if she's dissecting the world with a fine-edged blade. In this stillness, she perceives what others often miss: the unspoken tensions, the quiet tremors beneath surface appearances. There's a quiet intensity in her observation, a kind of detachment born from relentless clarity. She notices not just what's there, but what's not said, not seen, lurking just beneath the skin of ordinary life. Her mind runs like a sharp mirror, reflecting what is plain and revealing what is hidden, often without mercy or sentimentality. It's as if her thoughts are a chessboard, every move and countermove weighed and calculated. That's the essence of her, a kingdom of forces, where perception is power and distance is a shield. Her mind is her throne, unyielding, discerning, relentless in its pursuit of truth, sometimes cold, sometimes insightful, but always herself. This inner kingdom is not limited to her alone. It's a mirror for everyone, women and men alike, shaping how they attract others, how they sabotage love, how they carry emotional wounds and hopes. These forces within are not static or simple. They are a court of queens, each with her own claim to power and her own shadow. The Queen of Spades, with her razor-sharp mind, leads a realm of analysis and scrutiny. Yet, beneath this intelligence lies a vulnerability, fear of being vulnerable, of opening the many guarded doors inside. She overthinks, overanalyzes, and often mistrusts her own feelings, turning emotionally complex matters into puzzles to solve or problems to fix. Her relationships are battlegrounds of her own making. Her mind cuts swiftly through confusion, her doubts often sharp as blades, her need for control wielded as a sword. She can raise barriers, keeping others at arm's length because she's learned that trust can be dangerous. Her strength lies in her ability to see clearly, an indispensable gift, but that gift can also isolate her, leaving her with a sense of loneliness wrapped in her own sharp reflections. Those who know her might say she's distant, hard to read, unreachable. Yet beneath that veneer is a woman who longs for understanding, craving connection as much as she fears vulnerability. She is a kingdom of intelligence and solitude, forever balancing insight with the risk of emotional coldness. Chapter 1. The Queen of Spades, the Feminine Mind. The strategic mind, the woman who observes everything. She sits in a dimly lit corner of a bustling cafe, her eyes scanning the room with the precision of a hawk. With every sip of her coffee, she absorbs snippets of conversations, the flicker of body language, the shift in energy. The world around her is a chessboard, each person a piece she can read, predict, and calculate moves long before they happen. With a single glance, she deciphers the hidden tensions between couples, the desperation in the gestures of the lonely, the unspoken joys between friends. Her mind is a blade, cutting through the noise, extracting truths that others dismiss as background chatter. She is not merely a participant in life. She is its astute observer, ever watchful, always calculating. Through the metaphor of a chessboard and a cold wind, this section explores her tendency to overthink, detach emotionally, and analyze relationships with ruthless clarity, revealing her internal palace's delicate balance. Each relationship becomes an intricate game, each conversation a move that must be carefully judged. She weighs her words like pawns and strategizes her responses like kings and queens on the board. The cold wind of detachment wraps around her, creating a barrier that keeps her safe, yet isolated. Her logical mind is a source of strength, but it often pushes warmth and vulnerability to the side. Even in love, her mind operates like a calculator, weighing affection against perceived risks. She guards her heart with strategies and defenses, fearing the emotional vulnerability that could expose her to harm. This woman knows too well the power of intellect, and while her mind sharpens her insight, it also sharpens the edge of her isolation. The clear lens through which she views the world can distort her relationships, creating distance even when she yearns for closeness. She struggles with the balance between observation and participation. Where others might feel with their hearts, she feels with her mind, creating a rift between her intellect and her emotions. In moments of intimacy, her analytical nature pulls at the threads of connection, unraveling trust and affection as she questions motives, fears betrayal, and anticipates the worst. This complex interplay between her strategic abilities and the warmth of connection leaves her longing for deeper bonds, while shying from the fragility that intimacy demands. The shadow critic, when intelligence becomes self-attack. She moves through the world like a blade cutting through fog, sharp and precise. Her eyes pick up the subtle shifts in expression, the slight hesitation in a word, the hidden meaning behind silence. Everything is data, every gesture a clue. She is playing a chess game where the board is invisible to others. Nothing escapes her, neither the patterns in a conversation nor the hidden motives beneath a smile. This queen's mind is a mirror reflecting cold truths, a lighthouse slicing through emotional darkness. But with this clarity comes distance. The woman who sees so much often feels isolated behind her own walls. She analyzes relationships like a puzzle, weighing risks, possibilities, outcomes. Her heart tries to join in, but the mind slows it down, pulls her away before she gets too close. In love, she cuts quickly, sensing danger before it arrives. She mistrusts slowly, weighing every word with the balance of a judge. The mind becomes her protector, but also her jailer. She knows the power of her intelligence. Yet, at times, it becomes a trap. Overthinking drifts into overcontrolling. Her sharp intuition sharpens into suspicion. Every interaction is disassembled, examined from every angle until the raw edges start to hurt. She wonders if she is too cold, too distant, if her brilliance is a blade that cuts herself more than anyone else. There is a silence in the mind where the harshest voice lives. This queen's gift of insight can turn inward, mutating into a relentless critic. The very intelligence that once saw others clearly now dissects herself with brutal precision. Every mistake, every insecurity, every quiet doubt becomes a weapon pointed at her own heart. This shadow doesn't shout. It whispers cold truths that echo louder than any kindness ever could. She questions every feeling, every choice, every word spoken or left unsaid. The mirror she holds up reflects not just clarity, but flaws magnified. The mind that once protected now punishes. Thoughts spiral into endless loops. Not good enough. Too much. Not worthy. What if you fail? She carries the weight of all the silent judgments ever cast upon her, but from inside herself. The critic does not rest. It picks apart her confidence piece by piece until the woman she sees is a ghost in her own mind. This self-attack often hides beneath layers of control. When she feels vulnerable, the critic sharpens its blade, justifying distance, mistrust, coldness. The more she judges herself, the harder she shields her heart. Ironically, this defense only deepens the isolation, making genuine connection seem like a dangerous territory she must navigate with extreme caution. It's a slow torture, this war inside her head, exhausting as a cold wind that never lets up. In love, this queen is a master strategist. She reads her partner like a complex book, deciphering each chapter for hidden meanings, potential pitfalls. She is quick to notice contradictions or signs of trouble, often before feelings fully blossom. This sensitivity is her shield, her way to avoid the pain she fears. But it can also become a sword she wields unintentionally, cutting at intimacy with questions and doubts that never fully rest. Her mind builds patterns, setting boundaries carefully, testing loyalty with an inner checklist no one sees. When trust is earned, it is treasured fiercely. Yet, when insecurity flickers, the critic awakens, whispering reasons to pull away, to protect what's left of her fragile heart. She might choose silence over conversation, retreat behind walls instead of opening doors. This is not coldness without cause. It is a strategy born from a place of deep self-preservation. She often finds herself stuck in cycles of analyzing every interaction, replaying conversations under cold light. Was that tone a hidden insult? Did she say too much? Did he mean what he said? The mind never quite rests, even when the body is tired. To love her means to understand this battlefield inside her, that her skepticism is not a lack of feeling, but a form of safeguarding. Breaking through requires patience, gentleness, and an understanding that beneath the armor lies a woman desperate to be seen and safe. When the shadow critic rises, it helps to pause and recognize its voice, not as truth, but as fear speaking in clever musings. Naming the critic out loud, or writing down those biting thoughts, can break their power. Remembering that intelligence is a tool, not a jailer, makes space for softer self-talk. It's not about silencing the mind, but befriending it, allowing it to protect without suffocating. This is how the queen reclaims her throne, by balancing the blade with a hand gentle enough to heal. The queen in relationships, how the mind protects and sabotages love. Inside every woman, there's a complex chord of internal voices, each vying for dominance when it comes to love. These voices aren't just fleeting thoughts. They are sharp, guiding forces that shape how we connect, trust, and sometimes pull away. Often, the mind acts like a fortress, built not just for safety but often as a trap, where protection becomes a barrier and love becomes a battlefield. The Queen of Spades, with her keen eye and analytical mind, watches love as if it's a chess game. She notices every move, every silence, every glance that might hide a true intent. This constant vigilance isn't born of mistrust alone. It's a deep-seated need to protect herself from potential pain. When her instincts tell her something is off, she quickly distances herself, cutting through illusions with precision. Yet, this same clarity can turn into cold distance, a fortress built around her heart, making genuine connection difficult. In love, this queen's mind seeks to control the narrative. She overthinks every detail, questioning whether the affection she is shown is real or just a temporary performance. Her fear of being hurt turns into a magnetic force that pushes love away before it can truly take root. She might sabotage a promising relationship by dissecting it into pieces, finding flaws where others see beauty. It's as if her love is guarded by a mirror that reflects only her doubts, preventing trust from fully blossoming. The shadow of this queen is a cold, analytical critic. She blames herself for her fears, her overthinking, and her emotional distance. Instead of allowing love to flow naturally, she molds her relationships into strategic exchanges, weighing risk against reward. The mind flares with suspicion and self-protection, often making her isolate when affection is closest. If I let myself feel too much, I might fall, she thinks, and so she pulls back, finding safety in emotional detachment, even if it leaves her lonely. Understanding this inner queen can shed light on why many women, and men, for that matter, struggle to find true intimacy. Her game is subtle. She believes that by being prepared, she's shielding herself from heartbreak. But all the preparation often prevents love from ever entering her inner kingdom in the first place. It's a silent trap. The desire for depth is there, but the fear of vulnerability keeps her guarded, her mind nestling into a fortress that feels impenetrable. In recognizing this side of herself, a woman can start to shift. The key is not to silence her sharp mind, but to learn when her intellect is serving her and when it's sabotage. Allowing space for trust, even when it feels risky, becomes an act of courage. Sharing doubts instead of hiding behind a mask of control can open pathways for genuine intimacy. The queen's mind will always be sharp, but love requires her to sometimes lower her guard and trust that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the bridge to true connection. To nurture the healthy aspect of this queen, it helps to view her as a guardian rather than a jailer. Her clarity can be a gift when balanced with openness, patience, and compassion. Instead of defending against love with suspicion, she can learn to see her mind's fears as signals, not truths. When she listens to her internal queen but doesn't let her rule without question, she opens herself to the possibility that love isn't a game to be won or lost, but a dance to be experienced with awareness and softness. Sometimes, the strongest act of intelligence is trusting what cannot be fully understood and allowing love to flow despite uncertainty. Chapter 2: The Queen of Hearts, the Feminine Heart. Empathy and devotion, the warmth of love. It is in these quiet scenes, the delicate brush of fingers or a shared glance, that the essence of connection breathes life into existence. The warmth of love doesn't just emerge from grand gestures. It finds its roots in the smallest details, the way a soft smile can melt away worries, or how laughter shared creates a sanctuary against the world's chaos. This warmth speaks of devotion, of a heart that beats in rhythm with another, knowing the unspoken needs that linger just below the surface. With each beat of the heart, there exists a dichotomy, the longing for closeness, accompanied by the fear of abandonment. Love can feel like a safety net or a shaky bridge suspended over a chasm of uncertainty. Empathy allows us to weave threads of understanding between souls, yet it can also reveal the shadows of our own insecurities. When vulnerability embraces devotion, it can create a profound connection, but the flip side often carries the weight of anxiety, the fear that perhaps our love may not be enough, or that it might not last. In moments of closeness, we find ourselves both enthralled and cautious. It becomes a delicate dance where we risk our hearts to gain something beautiful, learning over time that love's warmth is often paralleled by its vulnerability. The fear of losing that warmth can keep us on edge, where the slightest shift in mood can send us spiraling into self-doubt. Yet, it is in recognizing this dichotomy that we begin to understand that both love and fear can coexist, each adding depth to our emotional tapestry. This insight leads us to appreciate those moments of connection even more, urging us to nurture the bonds that remind us we are not alone, despite the haunting concept of impermanence. The wounded heart, anxiety, fear, longing. There is a fragile pulse beneath the softness of love, a kind of quiet ache that ripples through the chest like an unspoken secret. The heart, in its vast capacity to contain tenderness, also carries wounds that rarely show on the surface. Anxiety creeps in as a companion, tangled with fear and longing, turning simple moments into heavy breaths and restless nights. This heart is both a sanctuary and a battlefield, holding the beauty of connection and the shadow of vulnerability at once. Fear in the wounded heart is not loud or aggressive. It whispers in worry, in the doubt clutching the edges of a smile, in the hesitation when reaching out. It is the fear of being too much or never enough, the fear that love will slip away or never come as deeply as it was dreamed. In this space, longing stretches like an endless horizon, an ache for something greater than what is present, for completeness, for a safe place where the whole story of the self might be held without judgment or retreat. When anxiety takes hold, it blurs the line between what is real and what is feared. The heart's rhythm quickens with questions it cannot answer. Will they stay? Will I break? Am I worthy? These questions echo in the quiet moments, in the pauses between words, in the space where vulnerability is supposed to breathe freely but instead breathes shallowly. Anxiety twists love's sweetness into a tight knot of what-ifs, making the heart feel both desperate and paralyzed at the same time. Longing itself wears many faces. Sometimes it is a soft ache of missing someone who is gone. Another time a yearning for closeness that never quite feels reachable. It is the feeling that something crucial, essential, is just beyond the horizon of touch or understanding. This kind of longing may manifest as daydreams soaked in nostalgia or sudden waves of sadness triggered by a glance or a memory. The wounded heart carries this longing as a natural companion, not a flaw to be fixed, but a truth to be witnessed. There is a tenderness in this wounded place that is often hidden beneath layers of protection. The heart's wounds teach us about reaching with cautious courage, about the contradictions of wanting to be known fully while fearing exposure. Anxiety guards the door, yet it also signals where healing and growth might begin. Fear is a shadow cast by love's depth. It shines light on what matters most. To live with a wounded heart means recognizing the sharp edges beneath the warmth. It means sitting with the ache without rushing to silence it or dismiss it. Sometimes, the heart's trembling hands are the only proof that love is alive. Not perfect, not without scars, but fiercely present. One way to ease the weight of anxiety is to give the heart language and space. Naming the fears as they arise, acknowledging the longing without judgment, and allowing moments of quiet can calm the storm within. Deep breathing, gentle touch, or writing down what feels overwhelming can create small islands of relief. These acts do not erase the wounds, but help the heart hold its story with greater tenderness. Love, in its highest form, meets the wounded heart not with demands or quick fixes, but with steady presence. It listens to the anxious rhythms, offers refuge without conditions, and stays even when the heart flickers with doubt. This kind of love teaches us that the wounded heart is not broken beyond repair. It is a fierce, living force, hungry for connection, longing for truth, and capable of deep transformation. When you feel your heart tightening with fear or stretching with longing, try to gently ask yourself what it needs right now, not what it wants or wishes, but what it truly needs. Sometimes that is silence, sometimes a voice, sometimes the simple bravery of sitting with discomfort without running away. The wounded heart holds so much, and by honoring its rhythms, you make space for tenderness to grow, inch by inch, breath by breath. How the heart loves and breaks, vulnerability and loss. The heart loves with a fierce tenderness that sometimes surprises even itself. It opens like a fragile blossom, trembling with the weight of desire and the whisper of longing. Love is not just an act, it's a vulnerability, a surrender to something bigger than ourselves. When we love deeply, we risk everything: laughter, tears, hope, and heartbreak. And yet, we keep loving, because within that vulnerability lies the truth. Love makes us whole even as it threatens to shatter us. When the heart breaks, it often feels as if the world has shifted on its axis. That ache, sharp, raw, drills deep into the soul, leaving behind scars that might fade but never entirely disappear. Loss tears through us like a storm, stripping away layers we didn't know were so fragile. But heartbreak isn't just about the absence of someone or something. It is also about the rupture within ourselves, the death of illusions, the recognition of how much we gave and how little we could control. Love teaches us vulnerability, and loss forces us to confront its price. Both are essential parts of the human experience, each one carving a space inside us where pain and grace collide. To understand how the heart truly loves and breaks, we must see vulnerability not as a weakness, but as the core of genuine connection. It's the brave act of showing our rawest self, fears, hopes, flaws, and all. Every time we dare to open up, we risk being hurt. Yet, it is in these moments of exposure that love becomes real. Vulnerability makes life beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Because to love passionately is to step into the unknown, surrendering control for the possibility of something profound. And when it ends, the loss feels even more intense because the heart gave itself fully, holding nothing back. Loss can feel like a gaping hole in our chest. It can make us question the very foundation of our worth, wondering if we were enough, if we loved rightly, if we deserved to be loved in return. Heartbreak shreds the illusion that we can ever fully control another's heart or shield ourselves completely. It shows us that love is an act of trust, often reckless and wild, that leaves us vulnerable to the whims of fate and the unpredictability of human nature. But beyond the pain, loss also brings a quiet clarity. It teaches that love's true gift isn't permanence, but the courage to love anyway, despite the risk and the inevitable suffering. Healing from love's wounds does not erase the pain, but teaches us to carry it differently. We learn to hold our heartbreak gently, to honor it as a part of our story, not its end. Each loss carves a new space inside us where resilience can grow, often quietly and subtly. We develop a deeper understanding that love is not about possessing or controlling, but about offering ourselves fully, knowing that heartbreak may follow. Embracing vulnerability and loss becomes an act of radical trust, trusting that even in brokenness, there is a chance for renewal and rediscovery. Sometimes, the deepest love is born not out of perfect union, but through the courage to love despite inevitable heartbreak. Remember that every heartbreak holds lessons wrapped in pain. Let your heart be open enough to feel deeply and fragile enough to break. Every love, whether it lasts or shatters, leaves a mark, a reminder that we are alive, capable of feeling, of hoping, of risking everything to experience the full depth of human connection. When you understand that vulnerability and loss are inseparable from true love, the heartbreak becomes less about what is lost and more about what has been genuinely lived. After all, the greatest love stories are born not from fearlessness, but from the willingness to feel everything, even the pain, and to continue loving anyway. Chapter 3: The Queen of Diamonds, the Feminine Power. Embodied worth, recognizing your value. Recognizing your value is a personal journey that often feels like peeling back layers of a hidden treasure. For many, the idea of worth is tangled in expectations set by society, family, or past experiences. It becomes easy to forget that your value isn't measured by accolades or approval. It resides deeper within, in the way you carry your essence, like an armor that protects but also needs to breathe. Imagine standing in a room where the air shifts when you enter, a testament to your inherent worth that radiates in quiet confidence. The Queen of Diamonds embodies this truth. She knows her value intrinsically. Her brilliance isn't just in the glitter of achievement, but in her understanding of her place in the world. Recognizing your worth means embracing the multifaceted nature of who you are. Consider how you interact in relationships, how you set boundaries, and how you allow love to flow in and out of your life. Each connection reflects your self-assessment. The moments you stand your ground when someone diminishes your light, or the time you walk away from situations that no longer honor your worth, are all markers of this journey. However, the road to embodying your worth often comes with shadows. Fear of rejection, the weight of past failures, or a nagging voice that questions your decisions. These can create barriers that prevent you from fully accepting your value. It's common to slip into control, wanting to shape outcomes based on a perception of worth that feels fragile. This dance between knowing you are enough and feeling inadequate can be disorienting. The Queen of Diamonds navigates this by learning to differentiate between her divine standards and the perfectionism that stems from fear. Consider moments when you felt powerful and in control. These are signs of the Queen asserting herself. Perhaps it was a time when you negotiated your salary, stepped up to lead a project, or simply voiced your needs without apology. Each of these moments affirms your worth. They show the culmination of your experiences, the lessons you've learned, and the confidence you've built. By aligning your sense of self-worth with how you present yourself to the world, you find freedom. You begin to shed the expectations that weigh you down, stepping into a fuller version of yourself that embraces imperfections. Acknowledge the greatness within you. It matters. You are not just a vessel for the opinions of others. Your laughter adds richness to the world, and your dreams are intrinsic to your being. When you recognize this truth, it's like reclaiming a throne that rightfully belongs to you. You begin to act from a place of abundance instead of scarcity, asking for what you need and expecting to receive it. This embodiment of your worth invites others to step fully into their value as well, creating a ripple effect that transforms not only your life, but the lives of those around you. To truly recognize and embody your worth, practice self-affirmation daily. Write down 3 qualities you value in yourself and reflect on them regularly. Notice how these reflections shift your experiences. Build rituals that celebrate your worth, whether that's through journaling, art, or simply taking time to appreciate your unique qualities. By tuning into the essence of who you are and honoring that in small, meaningful ways, you begin to align with the regal presence of the Queen of Diamonds. She reminds you that your value is not only innate, but a beacon that can light the way for others. The Armored Diamond: control, perfection, emotional rigidity. She enters a room like a diamond catching the light, sharp edges glinting with quiet assurance. The kind of power that doesn't shout but commands attention with subtle grace. This queen knows her value, not just the price others put on her, but the innate worth carved deep within. It is a clarity born from a long journey of holding standards. Standards not as rigid rules, but as an unspoken contract with herself, to never settle for less than the respect, love, and honor she deserves. Her worth feels heavy and precious, like something fragile that must be protected at all costs. Yet, it's not a fragile flower but a diamond armored in layers, each facet shaped by past cracks, each shine a testament to survival. She embodies her worth through presence, posture, tone. She does not ask for value. She wears it like a crown. To love this queen is to meet her on her own terms, understand her unyielding need for respect, and feel the electric pulse of her personal sovereignty. But this armor can also be a double-edged blade. When her standards become rules written in stone, they tighten into chains around her freedom. The diamond's facets harden into walls where softness once lived. Fear lurks behind those polished surfaces, the terror of being seen as less, the dread of disappearing underneath others' expectations. Control becomes the shield, perfection the armor that keeps shame and vulnerability locked far away. Control is the diamond's cold breath, the invisible force that keeps everything in place, perfect, impeccable. This queen measures life like a jeweler inspects a gem, finding flaws no one else notices and polishing them until they nearly vanish. She tests the world around her, sizing up choices, people, emotions, and reactions with a precise, unflinching gaze. Nothing escapes her appraisal, and she trusts order as if it were oxygen. Yet beneath this polished surface lies a quiet war. The desire for control becomes a fortress built to hide uncertainty. When everything must be perfect, spontaneity dies, and the heart beats to a rhythm set by fear rather than freedom. Emotional rigidity settles in like ice. She prefers certainty, even if it's cold and lonely, to the messy vulnerability of emotional chaos. Her armor protects but also isolates, drawing an invisible line between what she allows in and what she forcefully shuts out. She holds tight to her reality, believing that only by regulating every detail can she avoid disappointment or loss. This queen can be relentless with herself and others, expecting flawless behavior, spotless intentions, and unshakable loyalty. Any cracks in this facade are met with swift tightening of control, as if her very survival depends on remaining untarnished. But perfection is a mirage, and the harder she clings, the more brittle the armor becomes. In love, the armored diamond reigns with a fierce but cautious heart. She understands power not as domination, but as the strength to maintain her boundaries and honor her worth. She does not easily surrender or soften. Intimacy requires a negotiation of her conditions, a proving ground where trust is earned slowly and never taken for granted. Her love looks like a test. She watches for consistency, for respect in small moments. She measures how much space is given and how none is encroached upon. There is a subtle dance of giving and holding back, of opening just enough to invite connection, but never so much that she loses herself. For this queen, love is as much about maintaining sovereignty as it is about tenderness. She fears that vulnerability will lead to erosion, so she keeps her feelings tightly wrapped, revealing glimpses instead of whole truths. At times, this can feel like a cage for those who dare to get close. Her insistence on control can almost suffocate the very love she seeks. Partners may sense the distance behind the gleaming surface, the unyielding demands disguised as standards. Yet when the armor does come down, momentarily or gradually, it reveals a fierce desire to be seen and honored fully. Love with the armored diamond is an initiation into respect, patience, and the courage to love a woman who both dazzles and defends herself fiercely. Her perfectionism is less about being flawless and more about maintaining a kind of sacred order in which she can feel safe. Behind the armor is a yearning for acceptance that doesn't require hiding or fixing parts of herself. The paradox is this: the tighter the armor, the more fragile the heart inside. When control loosens even slightly, it can release waves of relief and connection that have been waiting to flood in. Notice where your own standards might be protecting you and where they might be holding you hostage. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is crack the hard edges and let softness breathe. It's not weakness to let go control. It's an act of fierce self-respect. Power dynamics in love, guarding and expressing power. The air around her shifts subtly, as if the space itself recognizes her authority, her worth glowing like a hidden treasure. In that instant, she is both the seeker and the keeper of a profound truth. Her power is hers to hold, to reveal, or to conceal, depending on what love demands. Her posture, her gaze, the way she carries herself, All speak of someone who understands that power is a delicate dance, a rhythm of guarding and giving, never static but constantly moving. She guards her worth like a precious diamond, testing and evaluating love through a refined inner lens that filters out the clutter of superficial affection. This inner lens is sharp, forged from years of knowing her value and having cultivated an unshakable core. She knows that her allure lies not just in beauty, but in the clarity of her standards, the firmness of her boundaries. While she radiates warmth and openness, she simultaneously observes, judges, and measures. There's a subtle art in her guarding. She doesn't shut down love, but ensures that it meets her at a level worthy of her. This constant balancing act is the initiation into true feminine power. It's about learning when to stand firm and when to soften, understanding that both are expressions of strength. In love, she tests constantly. Her guardedness acts like a mirror, reflecting whether someone sees her fully or only grasps her surface. Trust must be earned, and she knows that vulnerability is a gift that must be carefully bestowed. Yet, her power isn't oppressive or controlling. It's a strategic stance rooted in self-respect. This is where many women stumble, confusing control with confidence, fearing that guarding might mean rejection. But real power comes from clarity, knowing what you want, what you won't accept, and holding that boundary with gentle firmness. When she notices her own worth, she doesn't need to overpower to be respected. Her presence alone can shift a room, a dynamic, a relationship. Guarding her power becomes a dance of discernment. She enters a room and assesses the energy instantly. She holds her standards high, yet remains open enough to be touched by genuine connection. She plays a game of evaluation, not a game of manipulation, but a truthful recognition of her value. She tests love not as a means to neediness, but as an act of self-preservation. When she feels her boundaries nudged or crossed, she gently, but unshakably, reclaims her space. This isn't about control out of fear, but about sovereignty, knowing her worth as a fundamental truth that no one can diminish. To develop this power, a woman must learn to distinguish between genuine confidence and facade. Authentic power is rooted in self-awareness, not perfection or control. It's about knowing when to hold the line and when to soften. It's about understanding that her worth shouldn't be something she needs to guard like a shield, but something she embodies so fully that others are naturally drawn to respect it. Power in love isn't about domination. It's about clarity, integrity, and a deep sense of self that refuses to diminish or compromise. As she practices guarding her worth, she begins to see love not as a game of possession, but as a dance of mutual respect, where power is shared without losing oneself. Remember, true feminine power in love isn't about wielding control like a sword, but about owning your space with grace and certainty. When you learn to guard your worth, you create an environment where genuine love can flourish, one that respects boundaries without fear and values connection without losing independence. The more you recognize the strength in your boundaries, the freer you become to truly be seen, appreciated, and loved for exactly who you are. Chapter 4: The Queen of Clubs, the Feminine Mystery. The intuitive voice, feeling what cannot be said. In the stillness of a midnight walk, the moon drapes her silvery light over an empty street. The air is thick with a pleasant tension, a knowing that sprouts from the soul. It's in these quiet moments, where thoughts settle like dust, that the intuitive voice awakens. She speaks without words, conveying truths wrapped in feelings. If the heart loves with abandon, then this voice whispers with the urgency of a secret, demanding to be felt and understood. The intuitive voice is a guide, leading us through the fog of confusion that often shadows our clarity. She prompts us to pay attention to sensations, the gut feelings that bubble up when we least expect them. It's that prickling sensation that leaves us questioning our surroundings, urging us to listen carefully. It's in a moment of hesitation before making a choice, where we can hear her echo, "What feels right?" This voice dances elegantly between the tangible and the ethereal, encouraging us to honor feelings that can be tough to articulate. Yet, in our age of rationality, we are often taught to dismiss this voice. Society rewards clarity and logic, encouraging us to suppress the emotions that can't be neatly categorized or easily understood. This puts us at odds with a part of ourselves that thrives on instinct. But what if we allowed ourselves to sit with discomfort, to linger a little longer in emotional spaces that feel surreal or simply unknown? The intuitive voice is not always loud. She often appears as a whisper just beneath the surface, waiting for us to tune our ears to her melody. When we ignore her, we might find ourselves tangled in confusion, our desires overshadowed by preconceived notions about what we think we should want. Embracing this intuitive voice means inviting an intricate dance with uncertainty. It is to acknowledge that not every answers come in the form of concrete definitions or logical pathways. Sometimes, the path may twist and turn unexpectedly, leading to places that feel vulnerable yet profoundly enriching. In relationships, this voice becomes crucial. She nudges us toward acknowledging unspoken truths that may linger in quiet corners. When our partner comes home, the way we feel their energy before even exchanging words tells us about the tension or ease in the room. Listening to this can transform how we experience love, allowing us to navigate emotional landscapes with both courage and softness. Imagine a moment of intimacy, a simple touch, where joy meets the flutter of anxiety. These sensations ripple through our bodies as a language unto themselves. The intuitive voice beckons us to honor these feelings, even if they defy explanation. It's this mystery of unarticulated emotions that can connect us to each other in profound ways. When we share our vulnerabilities, letting go of the need to paint them in precise strokes, we cultivate deeper connections. After all, it is often in the spaces between words that the rawest truths are exchanged. As we grow more attuned to the intuitive voice, we become adept at discerning between our heart's whisper and fears dressed in shadows. The shadow fog can lead us astray, wrapping us in insecurity or doubt. In these instances, it's essential to sift through the murkiness, questioning whether fears are born from past experiences or genuine instincts. Our intuitive voice can help guide us back to the light, encouraging resilience through self-discovery. Rather than allowing the fear of failure paralyze us, we can reframe it as a chance to learn, to feel, and to grow beyond our comfort zones. Finally, to nurture this delicate voice within us, we can practice quiet observation. Set aside moments during your day for stillness, whether through meditation, a nature walk, or simply enjoying a cup of tea without distractions. Allow the quiet to fill your thoughts, inviting your inner voice to emerge without judgment. As you tune into your feelings, note what arises in your body. Pay attention to where you feel tension or lightness. The language of your intuitive voice will start to feel clearer, a symphony of sensations guiding your journey. The shadow fog, escapism, confusion, self-delusion. She moves through the world like a whisper in a fog, soft, elusive, almost undone by the weight of what she senses but cannot name. Her intuition is a lantern flickering in the mist, casting shadows where clarity should be. When the moonlight cuts through the dark, she hears the silence in between sounds, feels the heartbeat beneath the surface, and watches the spaces others ignore. This queen understands that nothing is ever purely black or white. Everything is wrapped in layers of meaning, shifting like smoke in the night air. This voice inside her speaks in riddles, in half-truths, and in feelings so raw they pierce through logic. She trusts what her body feels before her mind can catch up. She knows the danger of walking too far into the unknown, but her need to understand the unseen pulls her deeper. The gift of her intuition is its subtle power, quiet, persistent, impossible to silence. Sometimes, this queen carries the weight of secrets no one else dares to hold. She feels the way the world bends beneath hidden currents, sensing patterns in chaos, catching glimpses of the deeper story beneath everyday life. This is not mysticism handed down in fairy tales. It is a living, breathing nervous system wired to the unknown. To trust this voice is to lean into uncertainty, asking, what if the truth is something no one else can see? But intuition can slip into fog. When the line between knowing and wishing to know blurs, the queen drifts into confusion. This fog is a thick curtain drawn between what is real and what is imagined. It clouds judgment and fills the mind with echoes that feel like answers but only lead deeper into silence. Escapism is the shadow's ally here, offering shelter from pain and complexity but at the cost of clarity. In the shadow fog, feelings twist into illusions. Longings morph into stories that mask disappointment. Fantasies become safer than facing hard truths. She may find herself chasing reflections, haunted by what-ifs and could-have-beens, caught in loops of self-delusion that feel at once comforting and suffocating. The fog hides more than it reveals. It muffles the urgent call to stand in reality, to name what is breaking beneath the surface. This queen's mind grows restless in the mist, sometimes paralyzed by the vastness of the unknown. It's a place where decisions feel impossible, where the next step may lead into danger or salvation, but she cannot tell which. The fog seduces her with the promise of escape, whispering that confusion is protection. Yet confusion is a prison of the self, a mirror that distorts rather than reflects the truth. When love enters the fog, it becomes a labyrinth without clear walls or exits. Desire and doubt weave together until the difference is lost. The Queen of Mystery yearns deeply but also fears exposure, pulling away just as another's hand reaches for hers. She may mask vulnerability with cryptic silence or pull her heart back into shadow to avoid betrayal, both others and her own. Love becomes less about connection and more a puzzle meant to be solved or avoided. She knows love cannot be forced, but the fog makes her forget how to trust what she cannot see or explain. This is where she might slip into self-delusion, convincing herself that distance is safety or confusion is intimacy. She mistakes emotional complexity for spiritual depth and finds herself clinging to chaos because it feels like meaning. The heart aches in the silence, waiting for the moment when the fog might lift and reveal what was always there. In relationships, the Queen of Clubs both fascinates and frustrates. Her presence is magnetic but unpredictable. She invites connection, yet insists on preserving the mystery that makes her irresistible. This push and pull can be exhausting for those who love her, but it is part of her nature. Bound to the dance between clarity and shadow, between what is known and what remains unseen. To honor this queen is to honor the spaces between words and feelings, the pauses heavy with unspoken truths. It means sitting with uncertainty without rushing to fix it. It means allowing love to be both a question and an answer, held gently in the hands of the unknown. When the fog thickens, grounding practices can anchor her wandering mind. Simple rituals like slow breathing, writing what emerges without judgment, or stepping into physical movement to reconnect with the body's truth. The shadow invites escape, but presence, however fragile, is the only path through. Mystery in love, intuition and the unknown. There's something compelling about the way love whispers from the shadows, almost teasing us with its secrets. It's as if beneath every glance, every word, lingers a quiet enigma, an unseen thread drawing us closer or pulling us apart. In the quiet of the night, when the world has dimmed into silence, the mind begins to drift into the realm of the unseen, where intuition stirs and the unknown beckons with silent promise. Love, in its deepest form, lives beyond the grasp of reason. It is a puzzle that only the heart and the instinct can begin to piece together. The Queen of Clubs, the Keeper of Mystery, embodies this unseen force. She is the whisper in the dark, the flicker of intuition that hints at truths words cannot hold. This queen senses the subtle shifts, an unspoken fear, a hidden longing buried beneath confidence. and feels these depths with a quiet knowing. She perceives what others overlook. Faint glimmers of vulnerability behind a mask, the faint scent of doubt lingering in a lover's mind, the invisible currents that dictate the flow of intimacy. Her gift lies in her ability to sense what is beyond the surface, to feel the unspoken stories behind the eyes and gestures. This realm of mystery doesn't always bring clarity. Sometimes it stirs confusion, too. The Queen of Clubs may find herself lost in fog, her thoughts swirling in a maze of symbols and hints. The shadows she dwells in are filled with longing and uncertainty, making her question her perceptions and doubts. She's haunted by the feeling that what she senses is incomplete, that what she sees is only part of a larger story hidden just beyond reach. This necessity to trust her instincts, even when they contradict what she can clearly see, becomes her greatest challenge and her greatest gift. She learns that some truths refuse to be pinned down with certainty. They require patience, silence, and an acceptance of the unknown. Love as a mystery pushes us to embrace the fact that not everything can be explained or controlled. The Queen of Clubs teaches us that sometimes the most vital knowledge is what we feel rather than what we know. Our intuition acts like a lighthouse in fog, casting a faint glow that guides us through uncertain waters, even when the path ahead remains cloaked in darkness. Recognizing her signals, that gentle pull, that subtle shift, becomes an act of trust. It's in surrendering to this intuition that love's deepest truths emerge, quietly revealing themselves without words or certainty. Sometimes, love's most profound lessons come from learning to lean into the mystery rather than desperately seeking the answers. For those drawn to her, the key is learning to distinguish genuine intuition from wishful thinking or confusion. It's about quieting the mind enough to hear the subtle whispers of the heart and the unseen currents of love. Trust that the shadows hold meaning, even when clarity feels impossible. Love may always contain an element of the unknown. It's part of its nature, and recognizing that turns the process into a dance with mystery rather than a quest for certainty. When you begin to listen to that quiet voice, when you accept that love's deepest truths are often felt rather than seen, you start navigating the unseen with grace and patience. The real gift lies in surrendering to the mystery, knowing that in the darkness, our most profound truths often reside. Chapter 5. The Inner Wars of the Queens. Protection versus Sabotage, Inner Queen Battles. In the quiet moments, when the world fades away, we confront an internal struggle, a fierce battle between the instinct to protect ourselves and the habits that lead to self-sabotage. This conflict exists within each of us, shaped by past experiences, fears, and desires. It is a complex dance of inner queens. When the Queen of Spades rises, she sharpens her blade of logic and observation. She can cut through confusion, protecting her heart with a calculated distance. Yet, as she reigns, she risks becoming a fortress, isolating herself in a castle made of doubt and mistrust. The longing for closeness clashes against the fear of vulnerability. How often have you held back your heart in fear, convincing yourself that emotional detachment is a shield? Each time you analyze a situation, do you feel empowered, or do you spiral into cynicism, echoing past wounds? Conversely, the Queen of Hearts whispers for connection. Her warmth is inviting. She yearns to love deeply, but in that desire lies the shadow of fear, the fear of abandonment, of being unimportant, of heartache. She loves like a soft glow at dawn, but often overlooks her own boundaries in the quest for intimacy. This queen's power lies in her emotional depth. Yet, when love becomes entangled in insecurity, she may sacrifice herself on the altar of devotion. Can you recall moments when you abandoned your needs to keep someone close? Does the longing to connect sometimes overshadow the wisdom of self-preservation? It is seamless to see how this internal struggle switches from love to fear, from healing to heartbreak. A simple expression of affection can become a battlefield where your heart grapples with its own worth. Then, there's the Queen of Diamonds, standing majestically on her throne of self-worth, armed with elegance and standards. She embodies strength, the knowledge of her value, and the drive to achieve her desires. However, her light can cast shadows of rigidity and control if her throne is threatened. In love, she evaluates partner after partner, constantly measuring against her internal benchmarks. Does holding tightly to your standards create the space for true love, or does it lead to endless self-imposed tests? Perfectionism can become a prison, locking away spontaneity and genuine connection. The battle grows fierce when the heart yearns for passion while the mind seeks order. How often have you felt stuck between the desire for authenticity and the fear of being unworthy? Finally, the Queen of Clubs lingers in the fog of mystery and intuition. Here lies profound depth, a connection to the unseen. She feels emotions that go beyond words, sensing shifts in the atmosphere, whispering secrets of the heart. Yet, her shadow cloaks her in confusion. Is this feeling real or an illusion? This queen invites us to trust our instincts, but she can also lead us into escapism when the burdens of the heart become too heavy. Are there moments where you have fled from reality, chasing comfort in distractions that only deepen your discontent? The line blurs between choosing to safeguard your feelings and shrouding yourself in deceptive fantasies. Every step in this inner dance reveals how these queens can either protect us or lead us towards self-sabotage. Understanding this dynamic can help us navigate relationships more consciously. Are we allowing our defensive walls to obscure our true desires? Are we letting fear dictate our choices? The queens are not enemies. They are facets of our being that, when harmonized, create a powerful, authentic expression of self. To foster this harmony, take time to reflect on which queen is currently at play. In moments of conflict, ask yourself, am I protecting myself, or am I sabotaging my happiness? Recognizing this can shift your perception and guide your actions. Embrace the tension as a part of your journey and allow yourself to be both vulnerable and strong, trusting in the wisdom of each queen. By doing so, you not only navigate your inner kingdom, but also cultivate richer, more fulfilling relationships outside of yourself. Love versus fear, the duality within. Love and fear are two sides of the same coin. They live in the same space, often indistinguishable, yet they pull us in opposite directions. One breath ignites warmth, connection, and safety. The next, a chill of doubt, withdrawal, and self-protection. This duality lives deep inside, shaping every relationship, every choice, every longing. We crave love's light, but fear makes us build walls. Sometimes, we don't even realize which voice we're answering until we've already stepped forward or retreated. This invisible line between love and fear is raw, jagged, and intensely human. Imagine love not as a simple feeling, but as a force that requires courage. When we say, "I love you," there's a risk hidden beneath the words. Fear watches, waiting to shield us from pain or loss. Sometimes love itself is tangled up with fear, disguised as jealousy, clinginess, or hesitance. It's not just about being afraid of losing someone else. It's also about being afraid of losing ourselves, our identity, or the control we think keeps us safe. The heart beating fiercely inside us is frightened, even when it acts brave. Fear puts on many faces. It can sound like doubt, whispering, "What if I'm not enough?" It can feel like mistrust, making us question the intentions of those closest to us. We confuse self-protection with guarding our truth. Our defenses rise when vulnerability calls, and suddenly, the warm light of love flickers under armor made of silence or anger. The more tightly we clutch fear, the more it blinds us. It convinces us that distance equals safety, when what we really need is connection. But reaching for love is messy and often feels terrifying because it demands honesty with ourselves and others. That bravery is where true transformation begins. When fear takes the throne, relationships become battlefields. We overanalyze every word, replay moments that hurt, and predict betrayals that never come. Our minds map out every possible escape route before love has even had a chance to grow. This is not weakness, it is survival instinct. Yet the cost is high. We end up with walls that keep even the kindest souls out. The paradox is heartbreaking. Fear meant to protect us ends up isolating us in loneliness. Love asks for something radical, to show up exactly as we are, with all our cracks and scars. It doesn't mean being perfect or having everything figured out. It means sitting with uncertainty and still choosing to reach out. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but an act of fierce strength. It exposes the raw truth beneath the armor. When we allow ourselves to be seen, we give others permission to do the same. This creates a sacred space where fear can soften into understanding and love can deepen beyond superficial comfort. This kind of love calls for continuous courage. It is not a fixed destination, but a practice. Sometimes, love feels like walking into a storm without an umbrella, trusting that the rain will wash away old wounds instead of damaging us further. It asks us to question, how much of what blocks love is actually fear's disguise? And if fear softens, what space will love fill in its place? These questions unsettle us, but they also hold the key to growth. Love grows when we decide to keep showing up, even when fear says run. Inside each of us is a delicate chord where love and fear rule alternately. Sometimes love leads with warmth, and sometimes fear commands with caution. Neither is wrong, and neither is permanent. Recognizing this duality lets us begin to work with these powerful energies instead of being controlled by them. We can learn to identify when fear masquerades as love and when love is genuine despite our doubts. This inner awareness is the foundation of healthy relationships with others and with ourselves. One way to start is by naming the feelings without judgment. When mistrust whispers, don't silence it, listen. Ask, what am I afraid of here? When longing bursts open, don't push it away, welcome it. This practice creates space for both forces to coexist without toxic conflict. It allows love to grow in the shadow of fear without being erased by it. Over time, the balance shifts. Love becomes the clearer voice, not because fear disappears, but because it is held gently and understood. When fear feels too large to overcome, small acts become revolutionary. Speaking your truth honestly in a conversation, reaching out when you want to retreat, or simply sitting with uncomfortable feelings instead of numbing them are all ways to practice love's courage. It's not about eliminating fear, but learning to show up in spite of it. Trust builds slowly, like light breaking through fog. With patience and gentle persistence, the duality within softens into harmony. Notice the moments when your heart tightens and ask yourself, is this fear or love? Pause before reacting. Give yourself permission to feel all parts of yourself without shame. This quiet observation is a crucial step toward healing. The invisible line between love and fear becomes clearer, and with that clarity, you hold the power to choose which voice leads your heart today. Visibility versus hiding, internal tensions. Within the quiet chambers of our inner worlds, a constant tug persists. Sometimes, we feel the urge to reveal ourselves, our truth, our vulnerability, like a flame flickering into view. At other moments, we retreat behind thick walls, hiding parts of ourselves, as if daring the world to find what's buried inside. These opposing forces aren't just reactions, but deep currents beneath the surface of every woman's psyche, guiding how she presents or conceals her essence. Visibility, in its purest form, is a dance of authenticity. It's the courageous choice to bare your soul, to stand in your truth even when vulnerability feels like stepping into the storm. But this visibility isn't always simple or safe. It's layered with the risk of judgment, rejection, or being misunderstood. Sometimes, a woman chooses to reveal just enough to be seen, to be heard, but not enough to be truly known, caught in a balancing act between connection and safety. Hiding, on the other hand, feels like armor. It's the instinct to protect what's fragile inside. When a woman hides, she shields herself from pain, disappointment, or rejection. It's often subconscious, a way to keep her inner world intact when she fears revealing it could mean vulnerability, loss, or shame. Hiding isn't always about fear of others. Sometimes it's about protecting parts of herself she has yet to accept or understand. Both visibility and hiding serve a purpose, yet they create constant tension, a dance between exposure and concealment. This tension exists because the inner court of a woman's psyche isn't a straightforward kingdom. It's a complex palace where these queens, these forces, vie for dominance. One queen might whisper, "Show yourself," while another counters, "Stay hidden, safer that way." That internal chatter shapes how she navigates her relationships, her emotional landscape, and her own self-view. When she's among others, the question looms, should I reveal my truth or keep it locked away? Sometimes, revealing feels like stepping into the light only to realize the gaze is too intense, the scrutiny too sharp. Other times, hiding feels like standing in the shadow, safe but unseen, carrying a loneliness that seeps into every corner of her being. Yet, the decision to toggle between visibility and hiding isn't always conscious. It's rooted in her wounds, her stories of rejection or betrayal, and her desire for closeness or control. Each choice, whether to open or retreat, becomes a reflection of her inner truth, a mirror of her unresolved tensions. In truth, these internal struggles aren't signs of weakness, but expressions of a woman learning where her boundaries lie. Some women tend to hide as a defense against a world that's unpredictable or harsh. Others push forward to be seen, craving validation and connection. Neither approach is inherently right or wrong. Both are necessary chapters in her journey of self-discovery. Recognizing when she's leaning into visibility and when she's retreating into hiding can offer profound insights into her deepest needs and fears. What if the secret isn't in choosing one over the other, but in understanding the dance itself? To see these queens not as enemies, but as parts of herself in a constant conversation. Sometimes, she'll need to step into the spotlight, exposing her true self and trusting the softness underneath her armor. Other times, she'll need to retreat, to listen carefully and tend her wounds before she dares again to shine openly. Learning to honor both impulses can give her the freedom to be whole, not perfectly visible or perfectly hidden, but authentically herself in each moment. And perhaps, the most liberating awareness comes when she recognizes that these forces aren't fixed. Today, she might reveal, and tomorrow, she may hide. Both are valid. Both are expressions of her evolving truth. Instead of fighting the tension, she can learn to flow within it, accepting the internal tug as part of her human experience, as necessary as breath itself. After all, the real courage lies in trusting that her inner court can hold both visibility and hiding in balance, harmonizing her deepest needs with her fears. Chapter 6. Your Dominant Queen. Self-assessment, identifying your archetype. This intimate realm is where love, chaos, and transformation intersect. Every woman carries these four queens within her: the Queen of Spades, the Queen of Hearts, the Queen of Diamonds, and the Queen of Clubs. Their whispers tell stories of strength and vulnerability, reminding you that you are not just one identity. You are a complex tapestry of desires and fears. Each queen resides in her corner of your heart, influencing your choices, your partnerships, and how you see yourself. Have you ever paused to listen to these echoes within you? Think about moments when you felt aligned with one specific queen. Was it in a moment of clarity, where logic cut through the noise like a blade? Or perhaps it was a time when your heart swelled with love, inviting vulnerability, as if the sun was rising inside you? Maybe you felt the surge of power, knowing your worth like a shimmering diamond, or lost in the enchanting mysteries that left you questioning the very fabric of reality. Take a moment to reflect on your relationships and your habits. Do you often analyze situations, guarding your heart with the cold precision of the Queen of Spades? Or do you feel a deep yearning for connection, vulnerable to the shadows of the Queen of Hearts? Identify the patterns. Do you build walls that keep love at bay, fearing abandonment? Or do you assert your value, demanding respect like the Queen of Diamonds, yet battling the need for perfection? Perhaps you find solace in the unknown, floating in the dreamscape of the Queen of Clubs, leaning into intuition and feeling lost amidst the fog. Intuitive self-tests, discovering your core. Under the steady hush of a night unmoving, your thoughts begin to unfold like shadows cast by a single candle. The silence isn't empty. It's full of whispers, the soft voices inside, hidden beneath the noise of daily life. Each voice is different, yet they speak to parts of you that feel as old as your bones. Somewhere in the quiet, you're not alone. You live inside a kingdom, a court where 4 queens hold their thrones, each a force of the inner feminine, each shaping the way you think, feel, and move through your world. When the world falls away and you peek behind your usual self, you recognize that these queens are not strangers. They are familiar, but their stories have been tangled in silence. Which queen carries your footsteps right now? Which one sings loudly in your chest at midnight? Does the mind that calculates and protects rule your space? Or is it the heart that burns and bleeds? Maybe the queen who stands regal, who claims worth, or the one drifting through mystery, cloaked in shadows and moonlight, is your guide in this stillness. Listening to them is a reckoning. You begin to ask yourself not just who you are today, but which force has been quietly steering your destiny, shaping your desires and fears. This night, you are invited to meet each queen, not as an idea, but as a living presence inside you, waiting with ruthless clarity and compassionate warmth, ready to claim the throne of your own story. Your core reveals itself through subtle hints, patterns you've lived so many times you stopped noticing them. The way you love, doubt, push away, or hold close. It shows up in reactions that puzzle you, in dreams you don't speak aloud, in moments where your breath catches and your mind races or falls silent. Intuitive self-tests are less about checklists and more about invitation. They ask you to sit with what feels true inside, beyond logic or judgment, to discover which queen speaks most loudly at your center. One way to start is by tuning into your first instinct when faced with challenge or choice. Do you immediately analyze every angle, a blade slicing through complexity? Or does your heart swell with warmth, longing to connect and nurture even in uncertain times? Perhaps you first measure your value, holding standards high like a diamond unbroken, or you feel around in the fog of intuition, sensing without naming, trusting the unseen currents that guide you. Notice where your attention goes first. What moves you to act or recoil? The whispers of your dominant queen breaking through. Pay attention to how you react when love feels threatened. Do you tighten like armor, control the dance of connection, or withdraw to decipher hidden motives? Or does fear clutch your heart so fiercely it both binds and shatters you? Maybe you feel pulled by the mystery, the unknown edges of intimacy where clarity blurs, or you retreat to sharpness, cutting away confusion with cold, precise focus. These instinctual dances scream the truth of your inner queen, the one shaping your emotional landscape more than any other right now. Allow yourself to notice these responses quietly, without rushing to fix or change them. Feel into the texture of each reaction. Let your mind watch as if from a distance, like witnessing a living chess game inside you, each move revealing something deeper. This clarity opens a private door to your self-knowledge that no judgment can close. It's here you find the space not just to know yourself, but to start reclaiming all your parts, all your queens, and make peace with how they rule your inner kingdom. Moments of recognition. Holy sh*t, that's me. One quiet night, alone with the weight of my thoughts, I realized something profound. Inside every woman I've ever loved, there are 4 distinct voices for queens. It was as if a door had creaked open in my mind, and I could suddenly see the truth behind the masks we wear. These queens aren't separate people. They live within us all, like rulers in a private kingdom, each claiming their space, guiding our choices, our fears, and our deepest desires. This insight hit me hard. an unshakable knowing that we are collections of these energies, quietly shaping every interaction and choice. They are part of our essence, silent and powerful, waiting for recognition or rebellion to reveal themselves. In these flashes of sudden clarity, moments when the mirror shatters and you glimpse who you genuinely are, you confront a raw, unfiltered truth. This is me, stripped of all pretenses. No excuses, no stories, just the naked reality. Sometimes it feels like a revelation, a punch in the gut, or a deep sigh. Like an old friend whispering, "Yes, that's really you," in a way that's both comforting and ruthless. These moments arrive unexpectedly, flickering like lightning across a dark sky, illuminating parts of ourselves we've ignored or suppressed. Recognizing these fragments demands honesty, a willingness to see ourselves clearly, without judgment, yet with the courage to face what we find. This recognition is often accompanied by a wave of emotion, shame, relief, awe, each unraveling with a strange sense of liberation. We start to see patterns laid bare, repeating across different situations and relationships. The queen of clarity, the queen of warmth, the queen of power, and the queen of mystery. All of them exist within the same woman, sometimes fighting for dominance, sometimes supporting each other's reign. When we notice ourselves acting out these archetypes, it's like catching an echo in a canyon, distorted but authentic. It's the moment where you realize, holy sh*t, that's me. And suddenly, your hidden parts gain shape, voice, and power. To acknowledge these moments is to accept that our internal world is as complex as a court filled with queens vying for attention. Recognizing them isn't about judgment, but about ownership. When you see yourself in their reflections, whether harsh or tender, you gain the ability to choose how they influence your life. These flashes of recognition become the sparks that ignite change, showing you that what once seemed distant or confusing is actually a vital piece of who you are. It's in these moments that you realize the truth. You are not oneself, but a kingdom within, each queen holding her throne, waiting to be honored or challenged, shaping your destiny in silent, profound ways. Chapter 7. The Queens in Love. Behavior under love, how each queen responds. The Queen of Spades approaches love with a keen eye, observing every detail like a detective meticulously piecing together a complex puzzle. Her mind operates like a chess game, each move calculated, each interaction assessed for potential outcomes. In moments of affection, she may seem poised and rational, yet beneath the surface lies a fear of vulnerability. Her insights can be sharp as a blade, cutting through illusions, but sometimes creating distance between her and her partner. When she feels safe, she will share her analysis of events and emotions, offering clarity. Yet in times of uncertainty, she retreats into a fortress of logic. The Queen of Hearts responds to love with an embrace of warmth, exuding a kindness that feels like sunlight filtering through the trees. Her depth of emotion makes each connection a profound experience, but this warmth also invites an intense fear of abandonment. Her love blooms like a garden. It is tender, nurturing, and filled with the colors of longing. When she faces conflict, her heart may feel like it is at the edge of a cliff, teetering between hope and despair. She thrives on empathy, but can easily become overwhelmed by the emotional weight she carries. In her most vulnerable moments, she longs for reassurance, for the warmth she gives to be returned to her in equal measure. The Queen of Diamonds stands tall, commanding respect with her presence alone. She knows her worth and does not shy away from asserting her high standards in love and life. When in love, she radiates confidence, making her needs known and ensuring that her partner values her fully. However, her strength can manifest as rigidity, blocking spontaneous love with a checklist of requirements. Her journey often leads her to navigate power dynamics, testing the ground before allowing herself to trust. In moments of doubt, she may shield her heart with the armor of self-protection, fearing that vulnerability could damage her sense of self-worth. Her challenge is learning to balance her standards with the grace of openness. The Queen of Clubs approaches love with an air of mystique, often guided by her intuition and feelings that are difficult to articulate. In her presence, the world may feel wrapped in fog, where emotions swirl like mist around her. She perceives the unspoken, the hidden layers of connection that others may overlook. Yet, in her exploration of love, she sometimes wanders into confusion, where fantasy can cloud reality. Sensitive to energies, her reactions can swing between exhilaration and escape, compelling her to avoid uncomfortable truths. Happiness for her can feel like a delicate silken thread, easily frayed by doubt or fear of losing what lies beneath the surface. Embracing her intuitive nature while remaining grounded is her key to finding clarity amidst the chaos. Stress and insecurity, divergent reactions. Stress arrives like a storm that none of the four queens can fully tame. It twists the corridors of the inner palace, unsettling voices that usually hold balance. Each queen, a sovereign of her domain, reacts in ways that reveal hidden angles of insecurity and power. Under the weight of pressure, their distinct natures sharpen, fracture, and sometimes collide. The Queen of Spades narrows her gaze, slicing through the fog of chaos with icy logic, but in doing so, she can exile warmth. The Queen of Hearts feels the walls closing in as a pulse of dread tightens her chest, painting the world in shades of fear and longing. The Queen of Diamonds clutches her standards tighter, her diamond crown turning heavy with perfectionism that demands control at all costs. Meanwhile, the Queen of Clubs drifts deeper into shadows, searching for answers beyond sight, risking losing herself to confusion and silence. Stress exposes the fractures inside the court. It reveals what each queen fears most, her vulnerabilities and strengths laid bare. The kingdom of self is no longer a poised court, but a battlefield where strategy and emotion clash fiercely. How one queen manages the storm often sets the tone for the whole inner realm, either strengthening the crown or causing it to waver. Under stress, the Queen of Spades sharpens her intellect, but sometimes at the cost of connection. Her mind, usually a blade cutting through confusion, can become a cold wind that freezes feelings. She analyzes every word, every gesture, hunting for patterns and meanings that might signal danger or betrayal. This relentless scrutiny is her way of protecting the kingdom, but it can create walls that isolate her from the warmth of others. Insecurity fuels her critic's voice. Instead of finding clarity, she finds doubt. Why wasn't I enough? Why did I miss that sign? Her strategic mind becomes a labyrinth of overthinking, where every choice is a chess move to avoid pain. This mental fortress keeps vulnerability at bay, but also keeps love at arm's length. Moments meant for tenderness are dissected, emotions dissected, relationships reduced to puzzles she must solve rather than spaces she can inhabit. When stress darkens the sky, the Queen of Hearts feels it first as a tightening inside, a desperate grasp for comfort that often slips away. Her love, usually a warm tide embracing others, turns into a trembling vulnerability that fears abandonment. She clings to connection with trembling hands, afraid that even the smallest rejection will shatter the fragile trust she's built. Insecurity turns her heart into a fragile flame, threatened by the cold gusts of uncertainty. She sways between yearning and retreat, longing to pour herself out, but also fearing overflow. Her emotional world becomes a storm of waves, sometimes calm, sometimes crashing wild, and always hungry for reassurance. She may cry without words, ache in silence, or cling to love so fiercely she risks losing her own breath. Pressure makes the Queen of Diamonds tighten her grip on self-worth, sharpening the edges of her standards until they feel as much a prison as a crown. Her elegance and grace mask a rigid armor forged from past wounds, proof that she cannot afford weakness. Control becomes her shield, not just to maintain status, but to fend off any threat that might tarnish her value. This insecurity whispers lies in her ear. If you loosen control, you risk losing respect, love, and safety. Perfection becomes a watchtower she is trapped behind, anxious about every detail and every step. The higher she climbs, the lonelier the view, as others sense the distance her protocols create. Her guarded heart becomes a gatekeeper, deciding who is worthy to enter her true self and who merely passes by. In moments of stress, the Queen of Clubs retreats into the shadows where intuition whispers riddles no one else hears. She drifts into her inner mist, where logic falls silent and feelings become abstract shapes she must decipher. Her gift of deep knowing can feel like a curse when the line between truth and illusion blurs. Insecurity pulls her into confusion, sometimes making her question her very senses. She wonders if she is lost in a dream or awake, if the feelings she senses are hers or borrowed from the air around her. This queen sometimes escapes through silence or fantasy, searching for answers that may never come. Her mystery draws others in, but also keeps her hidden, a secret wrapped in fog. The four queens often pull in different directions under pressure, a collision of instincts that can wreak havoc inside. The sharpness of the Queen of Spades cuts through the expansiveness of the Queen of Hearts, leaving cold logic in place of warm connection. The Queen of Diamonds' armor clashes with the Queen of Clubs' fluid mystery, creating friction between control and surrender. This inner discord mirrors the external conflicts we face, whether in love, work, or self-doubt. It's a private chaos that feels deeply lonely until we see it for what it is, a reflection of the complex, layered self. Understanding these divergent reactions gives us a map inside the storm. Recognizing when the mind overthinks, the heart trembles, the worth is guarded, or the mystery clouds clarity can help us respond with more grace instead of falling apart. Allowing room for each queen to be heard, even her fears, transforms stress from a tyrant into a messenger. When stress tightens its grip, inviting compassion over control softens the kingdom's edges. It's less about silencing the voices or choosing one queen over the others, and more about letting them speak in turn. Noticing when the mind grows too cold, or the heart too fragile, or the diamond too rigid, or the club too lost, becomes an act of mindfulness. In this space, insecurity loosens its hold just enough to breathe. A simple practice. Pause and name which queen is most active. Ask, what does this voice need right now? The strategic mind may crave space to sort facts rather than jump to conclusions. The heart might need a quiet moment of self-kindness to hold its ache. The diamond could soften by acknowledging that imperfection is part of beauty. The club might find clarity by grounding in the physical world instead of chasing shadows. By tending to the inner court this way, stress no longer feels like a siege but a season. Intense, yes, but also temporary, inviting growth and deeper self-trust. Desire and conflict, emotional responses. Emotions in women are like currents beneath a calm surface. They can shift swiftly, tides rising and falling, carrying with them a tide of desire, conflict, longing, or fear. These feelings rarely fit into neat boxes. Instead, they surge, recede, and sometimes roar with the force of a storm. Desire, in its purest form, is a hunger for connection and understanding, a deep craving to be seen and loved for who we truly are. Conflict, on the other hand, often manifests as internal resistance, the fight between what the heart wants and what the mind tells us is safe or right. Together, desire and conflict create a wild dance, unpredictable yet entirely human. When women experience desire, it can feel like a slow-burning fire or a restless whisper that urges them towards something or someone. Desire isn't always rational. It's often rooted in longing, imagination, or a need for validation. Sometimes it's quiet, like the soft hum of a song only she hears, and other times it is explosive, an undeniable craving that refuses to be ignored. Yet, these longing feelings are also intertwined with conflict, an internal push and pull that asks, Is this worth risking everything? Will I get hurt? Can I hold on to what I want without losing myself? Desire stirs secrets and fears, making every encounter with it a delicate balancing act between vulnerability and protection. Conflict emerges from the way desire presses against the internal programming of self-protection. She may know she wants connection, yet simultaneously fear abandonment or betrayal. This tension fuels emotional responses that can become confusing or overwhelming. A woman might find herself clinging tightly to someone she fears losing or pushing him away because her desire feels too intense, threatening her fragile sense of safety. These responses are like flickering flames, sometimes fueling passion, other times sparking self-doubt and hesitation. It's in this space that raw emotion becomes a battleground, a place where the desire for intimacy clashes with instinctive defenses built over years of wounds and disappointments. Understanding this inner conflict reveals something essential. Desire and fear are two sides of the same coin. They are not separate, but deeply connected, echoing each other's presence in subtle ways. Her longing for love is often accompanied by whispers of doubt. Am I enough? Will I be rejected? The emotional response is immediate, a surge of hope mixed with vulnerability, an ache that feels like both longing and a warning bell. Recognizing these signals allows her to sit with the pain rather than shut it down, granting her the power to choose her response consciously rather than react blindly. When she learns to hear her conflicting emotions without judgment, she begins to see that desire isn't a sign of fragility, but a testament to her capacity to feel deeply and to be alive. Chapter 8. How the Queens Sabotage You. Uncovering subconscious patterns, the saboteurs within. In the depths of our consciousness lie hidden patterns, like shadows lurking in the corners of a dimly lit room. These patterns shape our actions, influence our relationships, and often direct our lives without us even realizing it. They speak a language of their own, filled with whispers of fear, doubt, and unresolved wounds. Each of us carries these inner saboteurs, manifestations of our fears and insecurities, that emerge when we step into the light of our aspirations and dreams. Consider moments when you felt the urge to withdraw just when intimacy beckoned, or the way self-doubt clouds your ambitions. These responses aren't always conscious decisions. They are the voices of your inner saboteurs, attempting to protect you by keeping you safe in the familiar, even if that familiar is holding you back. They have names and faces, each a reflection of your experiences, pains, and unhealed traumas. Recognizing them is the first step in reclaiming your power. What do these saboteurs look like? The fearful one that shies away from risk, the perfectionist that constantly evaluates every choice until you're paralyzed, the critic who never lets your heart feel safe enough to explore love. They all play their roles. Each has its origins, often rooted in past experiences, but they don't have to control your life. By illuminating these patterns, you can separate your true self from the fears that masquerade as truth. Start by reflecting on the areas of your life where you feel stuck. What thoughts arise when faced with a challenge? Do you hear discouraging voices? Write them down. Document the moments you felt unworthy or scared in relationships, work, or personal endeavors. This isn't a process of self-judgment, but rather an exploration of your inner landscape. What do these patterns reveal about your deepest desires and your fears? Take time to sit with these reflections, embracing both the light and the darkness that reside within you. Consider a situation where you aimed high but found yourself falling short. What were the thoughts racing through your mind? I'll never succeed, I can't handle rejection, or what will they think of me? Each phrase is a seed planted by a saboteur thriving in your mind's garden. Take a moment to observe these narratives. Are they truly yours, or are they echoes from the past? Gaining clarity on this will help you disentangle your voice from theirs. Recognize the power of awareness. Like a soft light breaking through the dark, understanding your sabotaging patterns can illuminate your path to freedom. As you acknowledge these voices, give them space, but do not allow them to speak louder than your true self. When fear whispers, counter it with affirmation. When perfectionism tightens its grip, remind yourself that the journey is just as valuable as the destination. Healing these inner wounds requires time and patience. Accept that the journey is not always linear. You will take steps forward and sometimes stumble back. It is in this very process that you will find wisdom. In moments of doubt, call upon the strength you possess, the parts of yourself that shine brightly. Lean into vulnerability. It is here you can transform your relationship with fear from one of avoidance to one of understanding. Ultimately, welcoming the chaos and complexity of your subconscious patterns opens the door to profound transformation. Engage with your fears not as enemies, but as teachers. They have served a purpose, protecting you from pain, but they can also keep you from the life you deserve. Reclaim your narrative by understanding your saboteurs, and allow them to fade into the background as you step into the fullness of your being. As a practical step, begin a journaling practice dedicated to addressing these inner voices. Identify which saboteurs are most active in your life and how they manifest on a daily basis. With this practice, you create a dialogue with yourself, fostering healing and nurturing your true self in the process. Embrace this journey with open arms, for it is in recognition that the path toward liberation begins. Illusions and lies, facing the ego's tricks. There are moments when what we believe most fiercely turns out to be the greatest deception we have ever told ourselves. The ego's whispers can sound like solid truth, smooth and convincing, until they crack under the weight of clarity. It builds illusions that feel protective, walls erected from fear, pride, and the ache of past wounds. These illusions promise certainty but deliver isolation, acting like mirrors that reflect a distorted self, one shaped more by defense than by reality. The ego likes to play a game of shadows, making us see patterns where there are none and assign motives that often don't belong to others. It dresses anxiety as intuition, judgment as wisdom, and hesitation as strength. When we cling too tightly to these made-up stories about who we are or what others are doing, we blur the line between what's real and what's fabricated. This internal fog blocks us from deeper connection and honest self-awareness. Every time the ego spins its web, it asks us to believe in a world stripped of its nuance. It insists on judgments, good or bad, safe or dangerous, worthy or worthless. Such divided thinking kills subtlety and slows down the natural flow of life's complexities. The trick is knowing when we are caught in these traps before they tighten their grip around our hearts. We all carry masks crafted by the ego, masks designed to hide our vulnerabilities and present a polished version of ourselves. Sometimes these masks are soft and subtle, like a polite smile shielding discomfort. Other times they are heavy armor, designed to shut down any hint of weakness. The problem is these masks start to feel like the face we show the world, and eventually, we begin to forget what lies beneath. Recognizing these masks requires a courage that often feels terrifying. It means admitting that the certainty we've been clinging to might actually be fear in disguise. It's not enough to see the mask. We need to feel the part of ourselves it hides, whether it's pain, shame, or longing. This is when real transformation begins, when the ego's tricks lose their power and the raw truth of our humanity takes center stage. When we face the ego's masks honestly, something strangely freeing happens. The demand for perfection softens, and the tight grip of control loosens. We start to realize that vulnerability is not a weakness, but an entry point to something more real, more connected, and more alive. This process is messy and uneven, but it's the only way to dismantle the illusions holding us back. The ego never surrenders easily. It loves the comfort of familiar stories, even when they damage us. This creates a constant push and pull inside, a dance between truth and self-deception. Sometimes, we catch glimpses of what's real, brief flashes that light up the dark corners where the ego hides. Other times, we slip back into old patterns, believing the lies because they feel safer. This struggle plays out in everyday moments. The quick anger that masks sadness, the defensive withdrawal that protects a fragile heart, the perfectionism that hides insecurity. Each of these reactions is an echo of the ego's effort to maintain control and avoid pain. Understanding this is not an excuse but a form of kindness toward ourselves, a way to hold patience while peeling back the layers. The more time we spend watching these internal dynamics without judgment, the easier it becomes to spot when the ego is acting out. We learn to listen to the difference between the voice of conditioned fear and the quieter, steadier voice of deeper wisdom. This steady voice invites us into a world where contradictions coexist, and healing begins where rigid certainty ends. Letting go of the ego's illusions does not mean losing identity, but reclaiming it. It means choosing to see ourselves with raw honesty, holding our flaws, desires, and fears in the same heart that holds our hopes and strengths. When illusions fall away, what remains is not emptiness but presence, a grounded sense of who we are beyond the stories spun by the mind. This freedom is found in moments of quiet truth, when we stop rushing to fix or explain and simply allow ourselves to be. It lives in the pause between thought and reaction, where choice emerges. It is nurtured by curiosity toward our own complexity rather than a demand for simple answers. Moving through life with this openness reveals a vitality and ease that no ego illusion can touch. In relationships, this clarity transforms how we love and connect. We begin to see others not as extensions of our fears or desires, but as whole beings with their own truths. We learn to face discomfort without retreating, to speak honestly without aggression, and to embrace vulnerability without shame. This is the hard, beautiful work of dismantling illusions and stepping into authentic presence. At the core of facing the ego's tricks is a subtle but profound shift, learning to trust not just the mind's analysis, but the heart's quiet knowing. The heart sees beneath the noise, beneath the stories, and listens to something that doesn't need words. It recognizes when the ego is painting false threats and calls us back to compassion, both for ourselves and for others. This trust does not come overnight. It is built through small acts of attention and acceptance, pausing before reacting, breathing into discomfort, resting in stillness when the mind races. The ego resists this because it thrives on control and separation, but the heart invites integration and flow. Choosing to listen to the heart's wisdom weakens the ego's hold, revealing a landscape where love and truth are inseparable. One practical way to start is simply to notice when your mind is spinning stories that create tension or fear, and then gently ask your heart what it feels underneath. This quiet dialogue opens space for new perspectives and healing, lighting the way beyond illusions into a clearer, more compassionate experience of self and life. Soul surgery, ruthless self-examination. There comes a moment in every life when ignoring the inner voices no longer works. When the illusions we hold close start to crack, revealing the raw, unfiltered truth beneath. Soul surgery is that ruthless act of looking inside, stripping away the layers we've built to protect ourselves and facing what truly lies beneath. It's not gentle, it's not kind. It's a surgical act, precise and brutal, aimed at healing wounds often hidden deep within. The first step is recognizing that beneath all our stories, defenses, and masks, there's a persistent voice whispering truths we tend to avoid. Sometimes it's a voice of shame, other times of longing or regret. Listening to that voice is painful. It demands honesty without excuses, without blame. Facing what's buried requires a courage few are willing to summon, but it's the only way to clear the space for genuine growth and transformation. Ruthless self-examination means not only observing the surface, but diving deep into the darker corners no one else sees. It means asking, with unflinching honesty, what am I avoiding? What patterns keep repeating despite my best efforts? Who am I when no one is watching? These questions cut through pretenses and ego, forcing us to confront our shadow, the parts of ourselves we usually pretend aren't there or wish would disappear. Imagine your inner kingdom. Within it, Each queen rules her domain, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in chaos. To truly understand her, you need to sit her down and ask her the hardest questions. What wounds shape her? What stories she's told herself that no longer serve? What fears hide behind her confident facade? The process feels like a revolution within, an upheaval that clears space for clarity, for authenticity. But it only works if you are willing to see clearly and hold yourself accountable, no matter how uncomfortable. This self-examination isn't about tearing yourself down. It's about illuminating what's been kept in shadow, shining light where darkness once lived. It's about challenging the stories you cling to, the narratives that keep you stuck. The goal isn't perfection, but honesty. To heal, you must stare into the mirror and accept what it reveals, without judgment and with compassion. Only then can true self-awareness emerge from the wreckage of unexamined wounds and false beliefs. Think of it as a surgery on your soul, deliberate, precise, and necessary. The kind that cuts away what no longer serves your highest good and leaves behind what is real, raw, and true. It may hurt, but it's a pain that clears space for new strength to grow, strength rooted in authenticity rather than denial. This act of ruthless honesty can be the most transformative gift you give yourself, carving out freedom from the prison of your own illusions. So, begin with curiosity and courage. Ask yourself what you're afraid of seeing. Embrace the discomfort as a sign you're moving toward growth. Remember, this isn't about fixing yourself in one go, but about committing to the ongoing work of honest self-reflection. Each time you peer into that inner mirror and face what's there, you reclaim a piece of your truth, an essential step on the path toward genuine freedom and inner peace. Chapter 9. Healing Each Queen. Turning wounds into wisdom, the path of transformation. Every wound tells a story, a narrative etched into the fabric of our existence. These stories, filled with pain and resilience, shape who we are and who we may become. At first glance, wounds feel like insurmountable barriers, raw and vulnerable, echoing tales of loss, betrayal, or heartache. Yet, beneath the surface lies the potential for profound wisdom. When we learn to embrace our wounds, they can serve as a map, guiding us through the labyrinth of our lives. Transformation begins with acknowledgement. Acknowledging our wounds means we recognize them as part of our journey rather than obstacles. This is not a passive acceptance, but an active engagement with our pain. For instance, think about a time when a heartbreak shattered your world. In that moment, pain felt overwhelming, yet what followed was often clarity. Perhaps you discovered a strength you never knew existed or learned the importance of setting boundaries. Each experience adds richness to your identity, expanding your emotional landscape in ways that foster growth. Shifting from grief to growth involves an emotional alchemy that transforms pain into purpose. When pain pierces our hearts, it creates room for reflection. You might find yourselves pondering questions like, "What did I learn from this?" Or "How can I use this experience to help others?" This process encourages us to see our wounds as teachers, guiding us towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world. We become architects of our experiences, taking the rubble of our struggles and building new foundations for our lives. As you navigate this path, it's essential to create a safe space for healing. This space can be physical, like a cozy corner in your home, or emotional, such as surrounding yourself with supportive friends. Healing is not a linear process, and it's okay to feel stuck at times. The key is to allow yourself to experience the emotions that arise without judgment. Journaling becomes a powerful tool here. Writing down your thoughts can catalyze clarity, illuminating the lessons hidden within your wounds. Consider also the role of vulnerability. Opening up about your experiences transforms wounds into stories that connect us to others. Sharing your journey fosters intimacy and builds bridges with those who may also carry similar scars. In doing so, you create a collective sense of healing. Remember, you are not alone in your struggles. There is strength in unity, and your voice can inspire others to find their own path toward healing. Rituals can also provide comfort on this journey. Engage in practices that resonate with your spirit, whether through meditation, art, or nature walks. These rituals act as anchors, reminding you to remain present as you sift through your emotions. The act of creating art or surrounding yourself with nature can facilitate profound insights, allowing intuition to surface and reveal hidden meanings associated with your wounds. As you walk this path of transformation, reflect on the lessons that arise from the struggles. Each wound offers a hidden gift, be it patience, resilience, or compassion. Allow these lessons to resonate within you. Ask yourself, how can I carry this wisdom forward? This reflective inquiry helps integrate your experiences, creating a mosaic of understanding that enriches your life. Ultimately, the journey from wounds to wisdom is ongoing. It's not about forgetting pain, but incorporating its lessons into our lives. Realize that every scar is a testament to your growth. Embrace the beauty of transformation, for it unveils a depth of character and a richness of experience that cannot be attained without facing life's challenges. Let your wounds illuminate the path toward a fuller, more authentic existence. Remember, wisdom grows in the spaces where pain once lingered. You are the wise alchemist of your own life. Before moving forward, consider implementing a small daily practice. Allow yourself a few moments each day to reflect on your experiences, whether through meditation, writing, or simply stepping outside to breathe in fresh air. These moments create space for you to connect with your evolving self. This intentional reflection fosters continued growth and resilience. Somatic practices, healing through the body. Somatic practices remind us that living fully means living in our bodies, not just in our minds. This isn't simple. Trauma, stress, and life's fast pace can disconnect us from our physical selves. The body holds memories, tensions, and emotions that words alone can't reach. When we slow down and pay attention to sensation, the rhythm of breath, the weight of bones, the tremor of muscle, we reconnect to something real and immediate. That presence opens a door to healing that logic and analysis leave closed. Healing through the body is not about forcing change or control. It is an invitation to listen, gently, to what the body has been carrying. A tightness in the chest might speak of grief unspoken. A stiff shoulder may hold the echo of years guarding vulnerability. Somatic work lets these messages surface, not to be silenced again, but honored and released. It creates space for old patterns to soften and for new possibilities to grow, seated in felt experience rather than abstract thought. Breathing is the most accessible entry point into somatic healing. It's always with us, but often unnoticed. When you change your breath, the nervous system shifts. A slow, deep inhale can calm a racing heart. A fuller exhale can ease buried tension. Practicing mindful breathing lets the body step out of crisis mode and enter a state where healing becomes possible. It's a quiet rebellion against dysregulation, a way to reclaim the ground beneath your feet when emotions threaten to overwhelm. This isn't about perfect breath or rigid technique. It's about curiosity. How does your breathing change when you feel anxious? When you remember a painful moment? When you allow yourself moments of pleasure? With attention, breath becomes a teacher, revealing subtle states of being and guiding you back to balance. Over time, this practice rewires old neural pathways, creating a new relationship between body and mind that's rooted in trust instead of fear. There are wounds that the mind cannot fix. We talk about feelings, describe events, analyze causes, and yet something remains tangled within. Somatic practices offer a way to reach through and beyond language. Movement, touch, posture, and sensation speak volumes without a single word. The body remembers what words forget. Sometimes a gesture or a shift in stance can dissolve a long-standing block where talk therapy stalls. It knows the story in a different way. Practices like gentle yoga, qigong, or simple mindful walking invite the body to tell its own story on its own terms. They awaken hidden strength and resilience embedded in muscle fibers and bones. This kind of healing is often slow and subtle, found in small releases or unexpected shifts in energy. But it is profound because it's rooted in the living moment, your body's moment, and offers a path to reclaim wholeness. Our emotional lives are tangled with physical experience. Anxiety might manifest as a clenched jaw or a fluttering gut. Anger may ripple as heat behind the eyes or a surge in the chest. By learning to notice how emotions play out in the body, you create a feedback loop of awareness that interrupts unconscious cycles. Instead of being overwhelmed, you begin to observe with compassion. Here is tension. Here is tightness. What happens if I soften this part? This practice can shift how you relate to your emotional responses. Instead of being swept away or shut down, you can find a grounded witness within yourself. This creates freedom. Freedom to feel without being consumed, to face pain without fleeing, to embrace joy without suspicion. The body becomes not just a container for pain, but a partner in healing, capable of revealing resilience hidden beneath scars. One of the deepest gifts of somatic practice is learning to offer kindness to the body's experience. Many carry judgment about their physical sensations, too tight, too weak, too fidgety. Healing begins the moment that harsh inner commentary softens. When you turn towards sensation with curiosity instead of criticism, you enter a space of radical acceptance. The body no longer needs to hide or defend. It finds a quiet ally in you. This presence invites healing that is patient and tender rather than rushed or forced. It teaches that self-compassion is not a luxury, but a necessity. The muscles loosen slightly, the breath eases, and the mind's sharp edges blur. This simple act replicates the care we often withhold from ourselves, creating the foundation for profound transformation not just in the body, but in the heart and mind as well. Start by finding moments each day to feel your body's presence. It could be as simple as noticing the soles of your feet on the ground or sensing your hands resting in your lap. Allow yourself to breathe deeply and observe any areas of tension or comfort without judgment. As you become more familiar with these sensations, you may begin to notice where emotions reside and how they shift. Experiment with slow movement, stretching, gentle yoga, or walking in nature to open channels that often stay closed. Pay attention to what feels good, what invites ease, and what triggers resistance. Over time, you'll discover that the body remembers how to move toward peace, even when the mind feels lost. Finally, consider therapy or workshops that include somatic methods. Trained guides can help navigate deeper layers and provide safe support for releasing what has been stored in the body for too long. Healing is not linear, but listening to the body's whispers rather than shouting thoughts can be the clearest path toward freedom and belonging. Visualization and psychological reframes, rebuilding power. When you start to see your inner court as a series of vibrant, commanding queens, it becomes clearer how much power resides within. Visualization isn't just about imagining a better version of yourself. It's about intentionally calling forth the energy of these queens, aligning with their strengths, and rewriting the stories they carry. Picture each queen as a different voice, a different current flowing through your internal landscape. When you focus on her presence, you signal to your subconscious that your power isn't static. It can shift, grow, and be reclaimed. To rebuild your core strength, start by creating a mental image of each queen. Visualize her as a radiant figure, whether it's the sharp clarity of the Queen of Spades, the warm glow of the Queen of Hearts, the regal shine of the Queen of Diamonds, or the mysterious fog of the Queen of Clubs. Sit with her. See her clearly. Notice how she moves, how she stands. The act of imagining her isn't just fantasy. It's a way to impress her qualities into your psyche. You are not just thinking about her. You're inviting her into your present. This becomes a form of psychological reframing, a powerful way to shift how you relate to the parts of yourself that hold doubts or fears. When you practice these visualizations consistently, you begin to rewire your emotional responses. Instead of reacting from old patterns, fear, doubt, control, you start to access these queens intentionally. For example, When a situation triggers overthinking, you might imagine the Queen of Spades stepping in, her sharp eye observing without attachment. When vulnerability strikes, call on the Queen of Hearts, whose warmth reminds you that softness is strength. This isn't about denying your pain or fears. It's about giving each part of you a channel to express itself constructively. Psychological reframing acts as a mental reset. If you catch yourself feeling powerless, switch the story. Instead of "I'm overwhelmed," you might silently say, "The Queen of Diamonds knows my worth." Instead of "I'm small," tell yourself, "The Queen of Clubs senses the depths in every situation, and she guides me beyond illusion." These simple shifts, repeated often enough, create new neural pathways. Each time you reinforce the value of your queens, you reinforce your core power. Over time, these visual and mental shifts aren't just exercises. They become your default way of relating to yourself and life's challenges. Remember, your internal kingdom is fluid. No queen is fixed or permanent. You can call on each one as needed, shaping your internal narrative with purpose. The more deliberate your visualization, the more your internal chord aligns in your favor. Power isn't a static possession. It is a dance of energies, an ongoing process of reclaiming, reimagining, and upgrading who you are at your deepest level. In this, visualization becomes both a tool of mastery and a sanctuary where you hold the keys to your evolution. Practical tip: start each morning by taking 5 minutes to visualize your queens. See them in full detail, hear their voices if you can, and feel their essence. Then, choose which queen to call upon for the day's challenges. This simple ritual keeps your internal chord alive, alert, and ready to support your journey towards reclaiming power. Chapter 10: The Dance of the Queens, Full Integration. Entering the internal palace, meeting all 4 queens. Picture a grand hall, filled with flickering candlelight and the soft echo of whispers. The air is charged with anticipation as you step into this sacred space, where the rulers of your inner world await. Each queen represents a facet of your being, distinct yet intricately woven into the fabric of who you are. To meet them is to truly encounter yourself. Take a moment to breathe deeply and settle into this space. The Queen of Spades, sharp and observant, stands near the entrance. She embodies your intellect, offering clarity and insight. When she speaks, her words cut through the fog of confusion like a blade, revealing truths you may have overlooked. Next, the Queen of Hearts, warm and nurturing, radiates compassion. She invites you to explore the depths of your emotions, reminding you that vulnerability is a source of strength. Her presence is like a gentle sunrise, bringing warmth to your moments of doubt. As you move further into this palace, the Queen of Diamonds adorns herself with elegance and poise. She knows her worth and expects nothing less than respect, encouraging you to recognize your own value. Her confidence might intimidate you, but it also sparks a yearning to embrace your power. Finally, you encounter the Queen of Clubs, shrouded in mystery. She speaks in symbols and feelings, urging you to trust your intuition. She reveals that there is more beneath the surface, awakening a sense of wonder within you. Meeting each queen requires honest reflection, acknowledging her truth, understanding her wounds, and inviting her to sit at your inner court. The Queen of Spades may struggle with the harshness of her analytical mind, while the Queen of Hearts wrestles with the fear of being alone. The Queen of Diamonds might battle perfectionism, and the Queen of Clubs may find solace in fantasy. Recognizing these struggles is a vital part of their integration into your life, transforming chaos into harmony. As they gather, consider what each queen brings to your inner landscape. Allow the sharpness of the Queen of Spades to direct your thoughts, while the nurturing energy of the Queen of Hearts fills the gaps with love. Embrace the strength of the Queen of Diamonds, letting her illuminate your path with self-worth, and listen closely to the whispers of the Queen of Clubs, who reminds you of the wisdom buried within your intuition. Inviting these queens into your consciousness means creating space for dialogue. It's not just about recognizing them. It's about forging alliances. This inner dialogue holds the power to transform your experiences. When you face challenges, call upon each queen and let her unique strengths support you. In moments of indecision, let the Queen of Spades offer clarity. When your heart longs for connection, lean into the nurturing presence of the Queen of Hearts. In times of self-doubt, turn to the Queen of Diamonds, who will assure you of your innate worth. Finally, when uncertainty lingers, trust the instinctual guidance of the Queen of Clubs to navigate uncharted territories. As you practice this integration, remember that every queen shines in their own right. Honor their presence, allow them to inform your choices, and watch as they illuminate aspects of your life that you may have overlooked. By inviting them to sit in your inner court, you create a fuller, richer understanding of yourself. This process carries potential for profound growth, unraveling the layers of your psyche while fostering a compassionate connection with your multifaceted self. To start this journey, consider journaling your encounters with each queen. Write down your insights, the fears each queen embodies, and the strengths they offer. Reflect on how they influence your perceptions, relationships, and choices. This practice can bring clarity and a sense of unity within your inner palace, ultimately allowing you to navigate life with a deeper understanding of the queens who reign within. Harmonizing the energies, blending power, heart, mind, and mystery. Inside every person lives a complex rhythm where power, heart, mind, and mystery weave through one another like dancers on a shadowed stage. These aren't separate parts but threads tied in knots of experience, sometimes pulling apart, sometimes twisting tight in harmony. The way these energies blend determines how we move through love, stand in chaos, and grow through transformation. They speak not just in whispers, but in the loud crash of feeling beneath the surface. To live with all four queens awakened requires leaving behind the illusion that any one energy can rule alone. Power without heart hardens into control. Heart without mind melts into desperation. Mind without mystery shrinks into endless doubt. Mystery without power drifts into fog, thin and unstable. The challenge is to hold them so they pulse side by side, like four fires in a hearth, each needing space, fuel, and respect. The real strength lies in the tension, the balance, the fertile friction where they meet. When the Queen of Diamonds stands firm, she knows her worth in every breath, her presence a crown of clarity. But alongside her, the Queen of Hearts softens the edges, reminding us that no diamond shines without warmth. The Queen of Spades slices through illusions, offering sharp truth, while the Queen of Clubs calls from the shadows, inviting the unknown to dance with our light. None can stand alone if the kingdom within is to remain whole. Clarity and vulnerability often seem like opposing forces. The mind demands logic and distance, neat edges where everything fits. The heart presses for connection, raw and trembling. Yet, these voices must learn to listen to each other. The sharp insights of the mind can guide the heart through pain, naming the threads of fear and desire with cold precision. And the heart will remind the mind why we seek clarity at all, for the sake of love, for the rush of feeling alive. Imagine a moment of tension when the Queen of Spades pulls back, analyzing every word like a chess player sizing up her opponent. The Queen of Hearts leans forward, offering warmth that threatens to dissolve the cold defenses. In that moment, the mind might protest, warning of vulnerability's shadows. But the heart's quiet strength is a force of its own, courage wrapped in tenderness. Holding these together isn't weakness. It's an act of fierce bravery. This is how relationships shift, from battlefields of misunderstanding into spaces where honesty lives between trust and fear. When the mind learns to soften, it admits uncertainty, and when the heart embraces clarity, it finds a sturdier footing. Neither loses their voice. Both become clearer with the other's presence. Power thrives on certainty, standards, and decisiveness. It is the voice that stakes a claim and demands respect. Yet, The power that rules without mystery can become brittle, a throne built on fear rather than sovereignty. Mystery brings softness, unpredictability, the murmurs of intuition that stir beneath the surface and refuse to be fully named. It offers a space for questions without answers, for silence when words fall short. When these energies move in tandem, the Queen of Diamonds feels her worth but stays open to the unknown influences the Queen of Clubs senses in the air. Such blending allows power to flex rather than harden, to trust the unseen alongside the visible. Mystery invites a suspension of control, asking us to lean into what cannot be planned or solved, but only felt. This delicate balance teaches that true strength is sometimes anchored in surrender. Without mystery, power becomes a fortress too high to climb, isolation its inevitable shadow. Without power, mystery drifts, untethered and indecisive. Together, they form a dance that is at once commanding and elusive, a pulse that invites us to step both into ourselves and beyond. In everyday life, these queens rarely meet all at once. Sometimes the Queen of Spades sits alone, organizing thoughts like a strategist under bright light. At other times, the Queen of Hearts floods the palace halls with warmth, making everything glow with tenderness. The Queen of Diamonds may stride in to demand respect, crisp and unyielding, while the Queen of Clubs slips through shadows, whispering secrets no one else hears. The work is in allowing them to speak without silencing one another. When we feel confused, overwhelmed, or stuck, it's often because one queen has been locked away or drowned out. Fear might chase the Queen of Clubs into hiding, leaving us restless and disconnected. Pressure might tighten the Queen of Diamonds so much that heart and mind can barely breathe. Too much thinking dulls the fire of passion and intuition. These energies are like players in an inner court, sometimes aligned, sometimes at odds. Their movements affect every choice, every relationship, every heartbreak and breakthrough. When they balance, the crown we wear feels lighter, more natural. We become less a single voice shouting into the void and more a chorus of truths singing together. Each queen speaks her own language, sometimes fluent, sometimes cryptic. The Queen of Spades uses sharp words and cold logic. The Queen of Hearts sings in sighs and tears, filling rooms with emotional color. The Queen of Diamonds measures distance and value with clear eyes. The Queen of Clubs murmurs in symbols, dreams, and sudden knowing. The key is noticing who speaks first, who interrupts, and who waits silently in the corners. A simple practice is to pause when a strong feeling arises and ask, which queen is in the room? Is she ruling too hard? Is she hiding away? Naming these voices begins to loosen their grip and create space to rebalance. What if the mind simply observed the heart's ache instead of fixing it? What if power softened to listen to mystery's quiet warnings? These small acts shift the inner dance toward harmony. In time, you begin to recognize your inner court not as a source of conflict, but as a source of power. The contradictions inside you are not enemies. They are allies moving through the same kingdom. Holding them all with curiosity and care opens the door to a fuller self, ready to meet the world with both fire and softness. Wholeness and clarity, the embodied self. Within each woman, and every man too, exists a core that yearns for realness. Not the superficial facades we show the world, but the raw, unfiltered presence of who we truly are beneath layers of doubt and disguise. This core, this sense of wholeness, often feels obscured by the noise of internal voices, distracting, criticizing, or comforting, but it's always there, waiting for a moment of silence to be felt again. Embracing the embodied self begins when we start to notice how each part of us, thought, emotion, instinct, interacts to build a field of energy that makes us feel solid or fragmented. Many of us carry pockets of disconnection where the mind and body seem out of sync. Clarity emerges when we learn to center ourselves amid chaos, to feel our core not as an abstract idea, but as a living, breathing presence. This isn't about achieving perfection, but about storytelling ourselves differently. seeing ourselves with honesty and compassion, as if we are both the witness and the participant in our own lives. True wholeness doesn't mean feeling perfect all the time. It's about knowing that even our flaws and wounds are part of the grand story of our embodied self. When we speak of clarity, it's often mistaken for certainty or control. But real clarity is softer. It's about tuning into the sensations that remind us we are more than thoughts or emotions floating on the surface. It's the quiet hum of the body settling when we breathe deeply, the subtle awareness that arises when we pause to listen inside. This stillness isn't passive, it's active awareness, recognizing that our feelings and thought cycle, rise and fall, all while our core remains steady like the still point at the center of a spinning wheel. Our embodied self is present in every moment, whether we notice it or not. It's in the warmth of our hands, the heaviness of our feet, the flutter of a pulse. When we become familiar with these signals, we step into a space of clarity that is rooted in tangible experience rather than fleeting ideas. This clarity does not require grand gestures or perfect systems. It comes from simple acts, placing your hand on your belly when confused, feeling your spine straighten when overwhelmed, grounding yourself in your breath. Over time, these small acts carve pathways back to the essence of your embodied presence, creating a sanctuary within amidst the chaos of external forces. Achieving this sense of wholeness isn't about eradicating the parts of us that feel fractured, but about holding them all at once, acknowledging doubts and strengths, fears and hopes, pain and joy, so that none are denied or hidden away. When we nurture this internal space, the noise quiets, and our true self begins to shine through with a clarity that isn't brittle but resilient. It's a quiet knowing, an affirmation. I am here, fully present, alive, and complete in this moment. This awareness acts like a foundation, supporting us as we navigate love, chaos, and transformation without losing ourselves. One practical step toward embodying this self is to start noticing the sensations often overlooked. How the air hits your skin, the weight of your body against the chair, the subtle shift of mood in your muscles. This simple practice trains your nervous system to remain connected to your body's intelligence rather than dissociating from it. When moments of confusion or distraction arise, returning to this physical awareness can serve as a lifeline, anchoring you in your true self. Over time, what begins as a small act of mindful presence grows into a quiet confidence, an unwavering clarity rooted in the embodied experience that nothing is separate from you, and within you is a whole, resilient life. The one queen you become. Integration as transformation, becoming whole. Integration is about weaving the many parts of ourselves into a cohesive whole. Each queen, from the clarity of the Queen of Spades to the warmth of the Queen of Hearts, contributes uniquely to our identity. When we embrace each archetype, we welcome a more profound understanding of ourselves. The journey of becoming whole begins with acknowledging these distinct voices within us. The moment we start to listen, we uncover how these aspects influence our relationships, decisions, and emotional landscapes. To integrate these archetypes, we first need to recognize them. Each queen has her rhythm and energy. The Queen of Spades draws logic and analysis, offering us keen insights about our behavior and thoughts. However, she can also create a distance that leaves us feeling isolated. The Queen of Hearts, with her emotional depth, ignites our capacity for love, but can also tether us to fears of abandonment. The Queen of Diamonds stands firm in her worth, yet sometimes, her pursuit for perfection can stifle spontaneity. It is essential to embrace these complexities rather than hide from them. Acknowledging our different parts is both liberating and daunting. Each queen brings gifts that can empower us, and when we allow them to coexist, we experience richness in our identities. For example, a woman might find herself shifting from the analytical mind of the Queen of Spades to the nurturing heart of the Queen of Hearts as she navigates a romantic relationship. This movement is natural and necessary. Integration is not merely accepting each archetype. It is about finding harmony among them. Imagine each queen dancing together, exchanging roles fluidly, creating a symphony of your inner world. This dance requires practice and patience, as we learn not only to recognize each queen's presence, but also to honor her voice. Some days, you might resonate more with the Queen of Clubs, drawn to the mystery and intuition she embodies, while other days may call for the grounded strength of the Queen of Diamonds. Begin by reflecting on moments when each queen surfaces. Jot down instances where you felt particularly aligned with one queen or noticed her shadow side. Create a practice of journal writing or meditation to engage with these feelings. What does the Queen of Spades want to reveal about your thought patterns? How does the Queen of Hearts express herself in your emotional world? Allow these inquiries to guide you toward a greater connection between each archetype. As you navigate through acknowledging each part, think about balance. Life will pull you in many directions, and it can be tempting to favor one queen over the others. Strive for a state where all four queens can sit at the same table. This table is your emotional space, a place where clarity, warmth, power, and mystery come together. How do they support one another? What insights arise when their energies intertwine? Living as a whole individual means recognizing the times when your various aspects might clash. Perhaps when your analytical mind, Queen of Spades, critiques your deeply emotional responses, Queen of Hearts, you feel torn. This is where compassion becomes essential. Approach yourself with gentleness. Understand that you are a complex being with multifaceted emotions and responses. Acceptance leads to a more fulfilling life, as embracing wholeness allows love, joy, and growth to thrive. Set aside time to reflect on or engage with each queen throughout your week. Host a Queen's Gathering, where you honor their unique gifts and challenges. Be intentional about acknowledging each voice within you without judgment. By allowing space for all, you nurture your inner kingdom, ultimately leading to a richer, more profound experience of wholeness. This integration is not a destination, but a continuous journey of self-discovery. Poetic reflection, a quiet triumph. There is a strange kind of triumph that doesn't shout or demand attention. It whispers. It settles like dust after a storm. This triumph isn't about conquest over others, but the mastery of oneself. It's found in the moments when silence speaks louder than words, where your inner court, the four queens, stand aligned and steady. Not all victories wear crowns or sparkle under spotlight. Some glow softly in the private chambers of your heart, unseen yet unshakable. In the quiet triumph, there's no need to prove anything, no fight to win. It is the sharp clarity of the mind learning to soften without losing edge. It is the heart that dares to open again despite old wounds. It is the power that knows its worth, yet doesn't tighten its grip in fear. It is the mystery that trusts its intuition even when the path is invisible. This subtle victory feels like settling into your own skin for the first time, with all its flaws and brilliance woven into something whole. This triumph calls for honesty, the kind that is ruthless but kind. It sees every fracture and every light and says, "This is enough." It recognizes that inside every woman, in every moment of struggle and surrender, lies a quiet kingdom, not built in grandeur, but in the simple, unwavering presence of these four forces working together: mind, heart, power, and mystery. The four queens are not separate selves, but voices echoing in the same room, sometimes in harmony, often in tension. You might recognize them now, one word, a feeling, an impulse, and understand their roles in your story. This internal dialogue isn't messy because it's wrong. It's complicated because it's real. The Queen of Spades sharpens your perception, slicing through confusion, even if her blade sometimes cuts too deep. The Queen of Hearts offers warmth and longing, reminding you what it means to love and be vulnerable. The Queen of Diamonds holds your standards, your fierce clarity about who you are and what you won't accept. She's the keeper of your value, the one who asks for respect within the chaos. And the Queen of Clubs, mysterious and shy, brings depth and intuition, an ancient voice that knows what the others cannot see. They don't always agree. Sometimes one queen will rise louder, drowning out the others in a fierce, survival-driven moment. But the real magic happens when you learn to invite them all to the table, to witness each other without judgment or fear. When these voices live in balance, they spark a kind of freedom. Freedom from the relentless self-attack of the critic, from the paralyzing need to prove worth, from the isolation of emotional closure, and from the fog that clouds your choices. You start to see this court as your true self, not fractured, but multidimensional, rich with contradictions and strengths. Quiet triumph grows in the soil of reflection, in the pause between swings of the pendulum. To know yourself this way takes courage. It means watching your own patterns without flinching, hearing the parts of you that want to hide or rage or weep. Reflection is not about fixing or pushing away what feels messy. It is about witnessing. Imagine sitting with a mirror that doesn't lie, yet is tender enough to soften the harshness. The Queen of Spades lifts the mirror, and the Queen of Hearts adjusts the light. The Queen of Diamonds steadies the frame, and the Queen of Clubs adds the unseen glow behind it all. In this act of seeing, healing begins, not as a distant goal, but a quiet triumph each day. You start to notice how your mind moves through doubt, how your heart remembers beauty despite fear, how your power asserts with grace rather than control, and how your mystery whispers truths that don't need to be said out loud. This kind of awareness changes you slowly but thoroughly. It's in recognizing a sharp thought before it turns into self-criticism. It's in feeling the ache of loneliness without rushing to fill the void. It's in setting a boundary without guilt, or following a knowing you can't explain. Reflection isn't neat. It's often uncomfortable, but it's also the place where survival shifts into living fully. Your own quiet victory against the noise inside and outside. No one outside of you can command this court, though many will try. The four queens respond only to the one who sits in her own throne. This throne is not a throne of power over others, but power over yourself, the chaos, the doubt, and the wonder within. Accepting this means breaking old contracts with shame, self-doubt, and silence. It means telling yourself the truth you needed to hear as a child. You are not broken. You are complex. You are enough. Each queen holds part of a whole story. The mind sees the patterns, the heart feels the wounds, the power demands respect, and the mystery holds the unknown. Together, they craft a narrative that no longer needs to be a tragedy or a performance. Instead, it becomes a testimony to resilience and quiet grace. This internal kingdom grows stronger not when one queen dominates, but when all of them are invited to rule together, each with her own voice, space, and dignity. Trusting this court means taking your time. It means understanding that transformation is not a lightning strike, but a slow dawn. A quiet triumph whispers, you don't have to dissolve into one identity or another. You can claim your fullness, complexity, and soft strength all at once. This is not a secret many find easily, but once discovered, it changes everything. To live your quiet triumph, start with small acts of presence. When a critical thought rises, ask which queen speaks and what she fears. When you feel overwhelmed, breathe deeply into your heart and notice what is longing to be heard. Practice valuing yourself the way the Queen of Diamonds insists, not through perfection, but true worth. Honor the whispers of mystery that invite you into the unknown with trust rather than fear. Remember that this internal court is your constant companion. It will challenge you, comfort you, and sometimes confuse you, but it will never abandon you. The triumph is in showing up again and again with all your contradictions, your pains, your beauty, steady and whole in the quiet night, holding your own throne as only you can. Emotional warmth. The journey continues. Inside the quiet of the night, when the world seems to dissolve into gentle shadows, I realize that emotional warmth isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's a deep, pulsing force, an extension of our core, a silent language that connects and heals. It's the quiet glow that lingers after the storm, the soft whisper that comforts even when words fall silent. This warmth is an expression of vulnerability, a willingness to be seen and to see others beyond masks and defenses. It's the true essence of intimacy that blossoms quietly, often unnoticed but profoundly felt. Yet, this warmth doesn't always come easy. Sometimes, it feels as if it's buried beneath layers of fear or guarded behind walls of self-protection. We learn early on that opening our hearts exposes us to pain, and so, we build armor around our tenderness. But warmth, when fostered intentionally, begins to seep through those cracks. It requires patience, both with ourselves and others, like tending to a fragile seed that needs gentle care to grow. It's a journey of remembering how deeply human it is to crave warmth, to need connection, and to offer forgiveness for the times we've shut it out. Imagine a woman walking alone through a quiet forest at dusk. Her steps are slow, each one deliberate, sensing the quiet around her. She carries within her a flickering fire, perhaps small and uncertain, yet undeniably real. The fire is her capacity to hold love, to show kindness, to create space for tenderness. As she moves, she begins to notice the subtle shifts, the feel of soft moss beneath her feet, the distant call of a nightingale. That fire grows brighter with each mindful breath, reminding her that warmth isn't just an act, but a state of being, a conscious choice to stay connected to her own softness while extending it outward. This internal warmth also means learning to listen to the quiet signals of our own needs. It isn't about rushing to fill a void or perform warmth out of obligation, but rather about cultivating genuine presence. When someone shares their pain, warmth is found in offering an open heart instead of a quick fix or a silent withdrawal. When we face our own vulnerabilities and accept them, we strengthen the fabric of our emotional capacity. Warmth, then, becomes a bridge, a way to soften defenses without losing strength, a way to hold space for both pain and joy without diminishing either. In relationships, this warmth acts like a nourishing tide. It soothes the restless and invigorates the weary. It's not showy or grand often. It's a quiet presence that says, "You are safe here." It's in the small gestures, the touch of a hand, a gentle look, silence shared in understanding. These moments weave a safety net that allows love to flow freely, unguarded, unforced. That's the subtle power of emotional warmth. It's an invitation to co-create a sanctuary where authenticity can flourish, where the fragile beauty of human connection is honored. Practicing emotional warmth requires us to be honest with ourselves about where we stand. If we're willing to risk the vulnerability it demands, or if we're still protecting parts of ourselves too fiercely. It's recognizing that warmth isn't about perfection or never faltering, but about ongoing commitment to nurture soft edges within, especially when the world presses in. As you move forward in your own life, consider this. How much of your true self are you willing to reveal today? How much warmth are you ready to extend, even when it feels risky? Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, an attentive word or a gentle touch, can ripple outward in ways beyond what we understand at the moment. Keeping that in mind can transform how you choose to connect from one moment to the next. You began this book meeting four women, but somewhere along the journey, you started meeting yourself. The mind that overthinks, the heart that feels too deeply, the power that guards itself with steel, the mystery that whispers truths no one taught you. All of them were never separate. They were never competing. They were never fragments. They were never parts of you. They have always been the same queen wearing four crowns. You, the woman who thinks and feels, the woman who protects and surrenders, the woman who sees with logic and also moves with intuition, the woman who breaks, heals, rises, and rises again. Every queen you met was a mirror. Every shadow you faced was a doorway. Every wound you acknowledged was an initiation. And now, you stand where all four paths meet. Not split, Not confused, not divided, but whole. The Queen of Spades gave you clarity. The Queen of Hearts gave you sensitivity. The Queen of Diamonds gave you worth. The Queen of Clubs gave you depth. And together, they make you powerful in the only way that matters. You now know who you are, and who you refuse to be again. Your internal kingdom is no longer at war. Your mind is not fighting your heart. Your power is not rejecting your vulnerability. Your intuition is no longer trapped behind fear. You have become the unified queen, the woman who loves with courage, thinks with precision, stands with worth, and speaks with soul. And the journey is not over. It never is. But you are walking differently now, with a softness that does not collapse, a strength that doesn't harden, and a mystery that doesn't hide. You became the queen you once searched for in others. And that is the quiet triumph no one can ever take from you.